Chapter 110. Zhang Yuanfeng's strength was actually relatively strong among the warriors in the inner aura realm. After all, his Zhang family was also a big family with a powerful inheritance of skills. Although it had declined, it was still stronger than the Yu family's inner aura realm warrior, Fatty Yu. However, with Chu Xiu's powerful explosive power, as long as Chu Xiu took the initiative, Yu would naturally be weaker. Only when Zhang Yuanfeng was repelled did the other Zhang family's inner aura realm warriors react and rush towards the two, wanting to help. In fact, until now the Zhang family's people were still in a state of confusion and did not understand the situation. Just now they were still gnawing on roasted chicken and looked like low-level people in the pugilistic world. Now that they had put on a bamboo hat and a mask, they had turned into assassins from the Blue Dragon Society and were rushing towards them with ferocious murderous intent. Especially the young master of the Zhang family. When he thought about how he wanted to teach these three people a lesson, he felt a chill in his heart. With the strength of these three people, if he got close to them and they attacked him, even his father would not be able to save him at such a close distance. Moreover, what puzzled everyone even more was who hired the Blue Dragon Society assassins to kill them. Although the Zhang family was now in decline, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. It was not a small amount of money to hire the Blue Dragon Society assassins to kill them. It could even make an aristocratic family that was almost as big as the Zhang family go bankrupt. Although the Zhang family had offended many people in Linzhong Commandery, they did not have this kind of great enmity with the Zhang family, right? However, they did not have time to think about these things now. Zhang Yuanfeng was still struggling in the power of Chu Xiu's sword. If this dragged on, the family head would be killed by the assassin. However, before they could make a move, Fire Slave and Wolf King had already rushed over. To be able to become level 4 assassins of the Blue Dragon Society, these two were not weak. Fire Slave was born in the western region. As a slave, he secretly learned some martial arts of the sacred fire race. After coming to the Central Plains, he learned some martial arts of the Central Plains. Although it seemed a bit nondescript, its power could be said to be strange. Fire Slave's figure was like a snake, wandering among the warriors. He was abnormally agile and found the right opportunity to strike with his palm. Suddenly, a powerful fire force seeped into the opponent's body. Although the fire energy in the Fire Slave's palm wasn't as tyrannical as Chu Xiu's great violet yang hand of extinguishing the heavens and extinguishing the earth, it was even more strange. After the fire force seeped into the opponent's body, it could incessantly burn the opponent's chi, blood, and internal energy. When the Fire Slave struck the opponent with its palm again, it could even draw out the fire force along with the opponent's internal energy and chi to replenish itself. It could be said to be extremely bizarre. It could even say that if one fight as if the opponent's battle, as if the opponent did not have powerful explosive. And Yang could rank. If Fire Slave's battle technique was strange, then Wolf King's battle technique was much more simple and violent. He cultivated a body refining technique. His body was incomparably strong. At the same time, he also cultivated an extremely violent killing technique. When he fought, he was fierce and domineering. His momentum was extraordinary. His weapon was very strange. It turned out to be a pair of steel claws with flexible joints in the middle. The claws could be equipped with extremely sharp tips. After attaching Gang Chi to the steel claws, weapons below the level of precious weapons could not withstand more than a few strikes from him and were all crushed. If a warrior of the same level was caught by him, they would almost end up with their stomachs cut open. It was extremely bloody. When these two people attacked, they were like tigers entering a flock of sheep. In an instant, they blocked the attacks of 7 inner strong realm warriors. Zhang Yuanfeng struggled bitterly under Chu Xiu's saber force. Seeing that the 7 people behind him were blocked by the 2 Blue Dragon Society assassins, he was shocked and couldn't help but want to retreat. However, under Chu Xiu's continuous saber force that was like a drizzle, not to mention retreating, it was extremely strenuous for him to even block. At the critical moment, the sword in Zhang Yuanfeng's hand suddenly changed. A layer of red flames bloomed on the long sword. His chi and blood surged. He spat out a mouthful of blood essence and sprinkled it on his long sword. It merged with the hot Gang Chi and instantly bloomed a blood-red hot Gang Chi. A few feet long Gang Chi swept over. Zhang Yuanfeng actually burst out a few feet long Gang Chi at the inner strong realm. In the past, the Zhang family was a big family in East Yen. They still had some foundation. At the very least, they were stronger than others in terms of martial arts. The Zhang family's secret 9 revolving scorching sun sword art could only be considered to be a real small success after reaching the physical invulnerability realm. Only then could they exert the greatest power. Now, Zhang Yuanfeng could only use the power of qi and blood to drive the gang qi to burst out this gang qi. Zhang Yuanfeng thought that Chu Xiu would definitely retreat in the face of this gang qi sword. However, Chu Xiu did not retreat. His eyes showed a hint of ridicule. A black gas had already seeped into his eyes and wrapped around his red sleeve blade, causing the crimson blade to be stained with a terrifying black gas. This slash was like the gates of hell opening wide. An endless aura of despair hovered above the blade. Wherever it passed, the bright and scorching stellar energy was extinguished, and the precious sword in Zhang Yuanfeng's hand shattered with a loud bang. The way of Avicii slashed out 3 times. The terrifying slash that came from the infernal hell beheaded Zhang Yuanfeng. However, the strange thing was that no matter if it was Zhang Yuanfeng's body or his head, not a single drop of blood spilled. It was as if all the blood had been sucked clean by Chu Xiu's strange slash. After putting the sword back into the sheath, Chu Xiu's hand that was holding the sword was still trembling slightly. The power of the glazed golden thread goo in his body was constantly suppressing the backlash of the 3 blades of Avicii, causing the black gas in Chu Xiu's eyes to gradually dissipate. Not only were the members of the Zhang clan stunned, but even the Fire Slave and the Wolf King felt a chill run down their spines. The Fire Slave and the Wolf King were both experienced and knowledgeable, especially after joining the Blue Dragon Society. They had killed a lot of people and seen a lot of things. They had seen all kinds of strange martial arts, but it was rare to see such an evil and terrifying slash like Chu Xiu's. No, it should be said that they had never seen such a terrifying slash. The people of Jianghu gave Chu Xiu the nickname of Blood Demon. Now it seemed that Chu Xiu's slash was worthy of the word, demon. What are you waiting for? The earlier we kill, the earlier we can call it a day. Chu Xiu said and directly attacked the Zhang family's warriors. The Fire Slave and the Wolf King also reacted at this time and quickly took action. It was 3 against 7, but in fact Chu Xiu's side directly crushed their opponents. In Chu Xiu's view, the strength of the Zhang family's warriors was even inferior to the Yu family's internal aura realm warriors. Except for Zhang Yuanfeng, there was no one who could fight. Powerful skills were important, but skills were not the whole of combat power. These Zhang family's warriors had too little combat experience. The Zhang family had eaten too much over the years, causing the Zhang family's warriors to have very little combat experience, and their combat power was very weak. In less than a quarter of an hour, 4 of the Zhang family's 7 internal aura realm warriors were killed by Chu Xiu, leaving only 3 who were still struggling. But at this moment, suddenly there was a shout from outside, "Have mercy!" The person who ran in was Zhang Tianqi, and he also brought 3 older internal aura realm warriors. Hearing this, Chu Xiu and the other 2 stopped subconsciously and looked at Zhang Tianqi, not knowing what he was doing. Among the 3 people behind Zhang Tianqi, the oldest internal aura realm warrior stood up and said to Chu Xiu and the others, "You 3, I'm Zhang Weiqi, the great elder of the Zhang family in Daishan Commandery. I'm not afraid to say it out loud, but this matter is actually a misunderstanding. We promised the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery to integrate into our Zhang family of Daishan Commandery. In fact, it was a trap. Before this, we had already contacted the 3 internal aura realm warriors of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery and successfully bribed them. As long as the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery migrated to Daishan Commandery, we could cooperate from inside and outside and completely swallow the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. But we were afraid that if too many people knew about this matter, they would give themselves away, so we didn't tell the juniors. We waited until the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery had completely settled down, and when they were not vigilant, we made our move. But who would have thought that these juniors would go behind our backs and find you to kill the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery, ruining our plan?" Speaking up to this point, Zhang Weiqi even glared at Zhang Tianqi, which made Zhang Tianqi immediately lower his head in shame. In fact, this matter couldn't be entirely blamed on them. They could only blame the elders of the Zhang family for acting too realistically, causing the other Zhang family members to really think that they were senile and muddle-headed, so they took the initiative to hire the Blue Dragon Society to kill them. At this time, there were still 3 survivors of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. One of them walked directly to the Zhang family of Daishan Commandery, causing the other 2 to glare angrily at him and at the same time feel sad. There was actually a traitor on their side. This way, even if there weren't assassins from the Blue Dragon Society, they would still be dead once they reached Daishan Commandery. As for the Zhang family of Daishan Commandery, they were even more helpless. Originally, they had a good plan, and they could swallow the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery without losing a single person. But now, the two internal Aura Realm martial artists that they had bribed had both died at the hands of the Blue Dragon Society. This was equivalent to losing two internal Aura Realm martial artists. Chu Xiu secretly shook his head. The Zhang family really knew how to play. One thought that he could take advantage of them, while the other pretended to be the one being taken advantage of. In fact, they were scheming against the other. Previously he had some doubts. How could the Zhang family of Daishan Commandery be so idiotic? How could they do something like inviting a wolf into their house? Even if they were really senile and muddle-headed to this extent, they should have replaced the Zhang family with someone else. Now Chu Xiu and the others finally understood the reason. Everything was just a secret plot by the Zhang family of Daishan Commandery. It was just that the plot was a little too realistic and they actually included their own people. Chapter 111. Chu Xiu and the others were too lazy to care about the Zhang family's schemes and all kinds of bullshit. He just said indifferently, "It's better not to kill them. We can save some effort." Fire Slave and Wolf King didn't care either. Anyway, as long as they completed the task and got the reward, why would they care about anything else? At this time, Zhang Tianqi suddenly said, "This time your task was to kill 8 inner invulnerability experts of the Zhang family, but now there are 3 alive, so you can save a lot of effort. Can you refund some of the reward?" Chu Xiu looked at Zhang Tianqi coldly. This guy still doesn't seem to understand what kind of place the Blue Dragon Society is. Fire Slave and Wolf King just sneered and didn't speak. Chu Xiu said coldly, "Ridiculous. When did the Blue Dragon Society spit out the things in our hands? Since you said it's a task, then I'll kill all 3 of them. It's not breaking the rules." Zhang Weiqi hurriedly said, "Tianqi is young and doesn't know how to speak. Please forgive me. The reward is as much as it should be, and the 3 of you have completed this task." Although the Azure Dragon Society worked for money, it was impossible for them to reason with a bunch of fiendish killers like them. The Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery only had 3 inner invulnerability realm warriors left, and one of them was bought by them with a lot of money. All of them were killed by Chu Xiu, so how could they annex them? Zhang Weiqi said to the remaining people of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery, "You and I are both from the Zhang family. You used to be the direct descendants and we were the collateral descendants. But the Zhang family has already become like this, so why do we still need to distinguish between the collateral descendants and the direct descendants? Just surrender and join the Zhang family of Daishan Commandery. From now on, everyone will be a member of the Zhang family, regardless of the direct descendants or the collateral descendants." The people of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery looked at each other and could only put down their weapons helplessly. Now that Zhang Yuanfeng was dead, the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery could be considered to be half-crippled. What else could they do but admit defeat? Anyway, the other side was also a member of the Zhang family, so it wasn't too embarrassing. A smile appeared on Zhang Weiqi's face. "If that's the case, then everyone should pack up and prepare to return to Mount Tai County with me." Just as the Zhang family was about to leave, Chu Xiu suddenly said, "Wait, you can leave, but you must leave your things behind." Zhang Weiqi's face revealed a trace of doubt. "What did you leave behind?" "Of course it's the wealth and resources brought by the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery." Zhang Weiqi's expression immediately changed. "Gentlemen, aren't you breaking the rules by doing this? This thing belongs to my Zhang family. Why should we leave it to your Blue Dragon Society?" He had already paid the Blue Dragon Society, but he knew that he wouldn't be able to get it back. However, he couldn't give the Zhang clan's items to them. The Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery was a direct descendant of the Zhang clan. This time, the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery was mainly interested in the wealth and treasures in the hands of the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery. After all, the wealth and resources could be used by them, and the warriors of the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery still had to get rid of those who were disobedient and stubborn. Chu Xiu sneered. "Breaking the rules? If you didn't interfere after killing the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery, the things they brought would naturally be ours. Now that you want to keep these people alive, you naturally have to leave the things behind. Is this rule enough?" Zhang Weiqi said in a deep voice, "If your Blue Dragon Society says this, then it's a bit unreasonable. We have already given you the commission for killing people and now you want some extra income? Moreover, your Blue Dragon Society didn't have this rule before." Chu Xiu unsheathed the red sleeve blade in his hand and said indifferently, "There wasn't such a rule before, but since I said it, there will naturally be one." Seeing that Chu Xiu actually unsheathed his blade, Zhang Weiqi's expression suddenly changed. "What does your Blue Dragon Society mean by this? Do you want to do this to us?" Do you not care about the reputation of the Blue Dragon Society? Being an assassin also required integrity. Leaking information about one's employer without permission or doing something like this was a big taboo. It was fine to do this once or twice or even more, but if it was done repeatedly and your reputation was completely spread, who would come looking for you to kill people? You might as well not be an assassin and directly become a bandit. The fire slave in the back also said in a low voice, "Brother Chu, the rules of the Blue Dragon Society indeed do not allow us to attack our employer. If the branch lord finds out, I'm afraid we won't have a good time." Hearing the fire slave say this, Zhang Weiqi immediately let out a sigh of relief. If it was only this assassin in front of him who had evil thoughts after seeing the money, then it would be fine. However, he was afraid that the entire Blue Dragon Society was like this, and he would be out of luck. However, on the other side, Chu Xiu sneered and said, "The Blue Dragon Society does not allow us to attack our employer, but don't forget, they just said that our mission has been completed. Since that's the case, then they are not our employer. The Blue Dragon Society's rules only say that we are not allowed to kill our employer, but it doesn't say that we can't temporarily act as a bandit, right? The two of you, this is a family's wealth and resources. Even if the three of us divide it equally, it will still be a lot. Don't worry about the branch lord, such a small matter won't reach his ears. Moreover, do you think that with our current status in the branch lord will punish us because of such a small matter?" The fire slave and the wolf king looked at each other. What Chu Xiu said made sense. They were the first assassins to join the Heavenly Sin branch and had been in the Heavenly Sin branch for more than 2 years. They understood the branch lord's character very well. Although they were supposed to obey the Blue Dragon Society's rules before obeying the Heavenly Sin branch's rules, in the branch lord's eyes, as long as they listened to him, they could violate the Blue Dragon Society's rules. As long as it didn't spread to the headquarters, who would know? As a result, the three of them looked at Zhang Weiqi and the others with killing intent. Seeing this scene, Zhang Weiqi's expression became extremely ugly. The other party had already revealed their killing intent. Even if he was prepared to hand over the things, he reckoned that these assassins from the Blue Dragon Society wouldn't let him go. Run. Split up and run. Zhang Weiqi didn't have any intention of resisting. Although he hadn't fought with Chu Xiu and the others, he had seen Zhang Yuanfeng's decapitated corpse. One had to know that although the Zhang family of Mount Tai County was powerful, the Zhang family's main inheritance was still the Zhang family of Linzhong County. Zhang Yuanfeng's strength was definitely not weak. Therefore, the Zhang family of Mount Tai County had secretly schemed and bribed the other party to kill Zhang Yuanfeng in a sneak attack. But now, these three assassins from the Blue Dragon Society actually fought 3 against 8 and killed Zhang Yuanfeng so easily. If they didn't run, how could they fight? Moreover, Zhang Weiqi was old and didn't pay much attention to the gossip in the underworld. Otherwise, he would have been able to recognize Chu Xiu's identity from his mask. Facing a powerhouse who could step on the Longhu list, even if he knew that the other party wanted to kill him, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. "Fire slave, you're the fastest. Go after the others. Don't let anyone go. Wolf King, kill the inner aura realm martial artists with me." After giving the order, Chu Xiu and Wolf King immediately attacked. Like tigers entering a flock of sheep, the other party couldn't resist their attacks at all. Zhang Weiqi's strength when he was young was still passable, but now that he was over 70 years old, his vital energy and blood were extremely weak. In just a few moves, Chu Xiu had sent his weapon flying. Then he was struck in the chest by the great purple sun palm imprint. In an instant, the little vital energy and blood in his body had been completely burned away. During the slaughter, Zhang Tianqi saw that Zhang Weiqi was killed by Chu Xiu. His eyes revealed endless regret. Many people in the Zhang family, including Zhang Tianqi's father, thought that Zhang Weiqi and the other elders were old and muddle-headed. However, he was the one who first proposed to ask the Blue Dragon Society to help, so he was the one who dealt with Chu Xiu and the others. He didn't expect that the result would be like this. Unfortunately, it was useless to regret. The red sleeve blade in Chu Xiu's hand wandered in the boundless blood rain. It would take a lot of effort for an inner aura realm martial artist to block his blade, let alone an innate realm martial artist. Zhang Tianqi didn't have much time to regret. He was directly killed by Chu Xiu's blade. After a quarter of an hour, there was no one alive in the whole ruined temple. Wolf King panted slightly. His internal force had almost been consumed. After all, there were several inner aura realm martial artists and some innate realm martial artists. After such a slaughter, his physical strength and internal force were definitely consumed. Chu Xiu didn't feel anything. His foundation was amazing. The Xiantian skill and glass golden silk goo could ensure that his physical strength and internal breath were several times or even more than 10 times that of the same level martial artists. At this time, Fire Slave also returned to the mountain. He took a breath and said, "No one was left alive." Chu Xiu nodded and said, "Well, let's divide the things first, then move the corpses into the ruined temple and burn them." "It's neat." Fire Slave and Wolf King both nodded. They took out the things carried by the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery and checked them. They simply divided them into 3 parts according to their value, and each of them picked one at random. Of course, such a simple division of the 3 of them must have more or less. However, the 3 of them were not calculative people, so they just let it go. After taking the things, they gathered the corpses at the foot of the mountain together. Fire Slave put his hand on the doorpost of the ruined temple. The fire strength and gang chi condensed in his hand, making his hands turn red. Soon, the doorpost was set on fire, and finally the whole ruined temple was affected. Wolf King praised on the side, "It's really good to cultivate the internal force of fire attribute. You don't even need to take a flint to start a fire." After watching for a while, Chu Xiu and others directly turned around and left. It was normal to have a big fire occasionally on the barren mountain. It had been burned to such a state. No one could put out the fire unless there was a heavy rain. By the next morning, everything would have been reduced to ashes. Chapter 112. Chu Xiu didn't have any psychological burden doing such a thing. It wasn't the first time he did it anyway. Fire Slave and Wolf King were a bit nervous, but after returning to the Blue Dragon Society, they handed in the mission as usual. Sky Crime Branch leader didn't even ask. Right now, Sky Crime Branch was already very short of manpower. As a branch leader, he had a lot of things to do. How could he have time to care about other people's business? After receiving the mission commission, Chu Xiu immediately returned to his room and took stock of his income this time. Together with the commission and the things he got from destroying the Linzhong Commandery's Zhang family, Chu Xiu could be said to have made a lot of money this time. It was even more than what he earned from destroying the Yu family. Also, the Linzhong Commandery's Zhang family was a big family in the past. Although they were almost ruined in recent years, they still had some resources. For example, the quality of those pills was much better than ordinary pills of the same level. Other than the usual cultivation resources, Chu Xiu also found a strange item, which was stored in an open secret box. Because the material of the secret box was good, even if it was opened, it would be used as a container for storing items in some families. It was safer and more stable. At this time, what Chu Xiu found in the secret box was actually half a technique transmission scroll. That's right, only half a piece. As a legacy item, cultivation techniques actually contained many things. Most of them were written on paper, but there were also bamboo slips and even things like gold leaf. There was practically everything one could think of. For example, Chu Xiu's 2 volumes of the sorrowful yin and yang intersecting heaven and earth were written on the skin of an unknown beast. It was extremely bizarre. Compared to these things, the advantage of the technique transmission scroll was that it was convenient and fast. It could be imprinted into one's mind in an instant. But of course, the cultivation jade slips also had its disadvantages. For example, even if the cultivation technique was damaged on paper or other materials, a part of it could still be seen clearly. From there, some martial arts experts could even repair it to a perfect state through various deductions if there were only a few parts that were damaged. However, the technique importation jade slip was different. The formation was inscribed in the center of the jade slip. Putting aside the fact that it was only half of the jade slip, even if there were a few cracks that damaged the formation in the center, it would not be possible to read the cultivation technique. It would have to be repaired first. Chu Xiu rubbed his chin and a thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. The jade slip was golden in color, and it was extremely dazzling and beautiful like amber. It was quite obvious that it was no ordinary item. Otherwise, the Zhang clan of the Forest Commandery wouldn't have treated it as a treasure and kept it in a secret box. However, the crux of the matter was that this was only half a technique transmission jade strip. It had been more than 10,000 years since the ancient times, and if there was only half of the technique transmission jade strip left, the chances of finding the other half would be close to 0. However, in the end, the Zhang clan still kept this half of the technique transmission jade slip and kept it in a secret box like a precious treasure. This time, the Zhang clan also brought this thing with them when they moved to Mount Tai County. What did this mean? It meant that in the eyes of the Zhang clan, they knew where the other half of the technique transmission jade slip was. Although they couldn't find it for the time being, they would be able to combine them one day. So where was this place? Thinking of the relationship between the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County and the Zhang clan of the Forest Commandery, Chu Xiu had a guess. Could the other half of the technique transmission jade slip be in the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County? This guess was not certain to Chu Xiu, but there was a 30% chance that it was possible. Even if there was only a 30% chance of success, it was enough for Chu Xiu to make another trip to the Zhang clan for the sake of such a high-quality cultivation transmission jade slip. Moreover, although the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County was originally quite strong, they had lost 3 internal invulnerability experts. With Chu Xiu's current strength, it would be very easy for him to get rid of them without much effort. Chu Xiu walked out of the door and happened to see Fire Slave in the central square. "Brother Chu, you didn't go to cultivate. Are you preparing to go out?" Fire Slave came over and greeted Chu Xiu. Since the last time they worked together, Fire Slave saw Chu Xiu's strength. Fire Slave's attitude towards Chu Xiu had risen to another level, second only to the degree of fawning over him. Among the assassins of the Heavenly Sin branch, Yan Bugui and Tang Yo were undoubtedly the 2 strongest. But the key was that one was cold and unsociable, and the other was eccentric and temperamental. Neither of them were normal people. Even if Fire Slave wanted to fawn over them, it would be impossible to carry out group missions with them. Only Chu Xiu was slightly more normal. As long as the benefits were enough, like the previous group mission, their cooperation was very good. In any case, it was definitely not a bad thing to have a good relationship with an expert like Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu nodded and said, "Last time we killed a few people from the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County. Although we burned the bodies, I was still afraid that they would find out something. This time, I am going to make a trip to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots." Fire Slave said doubtfully, "They have been burned to ashes. What can they find out?" Chu Xiu said lightly, "The other inner strength realm warriors of the Zhang clan should know that Zhang Tianqi and the others hired the Blue Dragon Society to rob and kill the Zhang clan of Linzhong County. Although there is no evidence, we are indeed the most suspicious. Kill them all in case they go out and talk nonsense. Moreover, the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County also has some accumulation. They are tired of being assassins all the time. It is not bad to occasionally play the role of a bandit. Are you interested in coming with us?" Fire Slave didn't even think about it and shook his head. "Forget it. There are a lot of missions for the Blue Dragon Society. I'm not as energetic as you. I still want to do other things. It was okay to loot some things while killing people. But in the case of no mission, he was too lazy to do it." A strange look appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. He said, "Well, if you don't want to go, I will do it myself." The last mission was done by the 3 of them together. This time, if Chu Xiu secretly attacked Mount Tai County, when the news spread, Fire Slave and Wolf King would also suspect him. It was better for him to invite Fire Slave now. With the rewards of the Blue Dragon Society's mission and Fire Slave's character, he most likely wouldn't agree. And even if he agreed, Chu Xiu was not afraid. He had the art of extinguishing heaven, destroying earth and soul transferring. He could find out from the Zhang clan whether the other half of the technique transmitting jade slip was in their hands or not. If it was, Chu Xiu could also take the technique transmitting jade slip in his hand quietly. At this time in the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County, after nightfall, 6 inner gang realm warriors of the Zhang clan were sitting in the meeting hall, frowning. In fact, it was their idea to hire the Blue Dragon Society to rob and kill the Zhang clan of Linzhong County. Even if Zhang Tianqi and the other juniors had the idea, they didn't have the power to mobilize most of the Zhang clan's resources and materials as a commission. The 6 of them were the backbone generation of the Zhang clan in their prime. But because the 3 elders of the Zhang clan still occupied their positions, they were only in charge of the clan's affairs. This time, they thought that the 3 elders were old and muddle-headed, and it was finally time to give up their positions. But who would have thought that the older the ginger, the wiser the ginger? They had already planned it, but they didn't tell them, leading to such a mistake. Later, the 3 elders of the Zhang clan took action together to stop the Blue Dragon Society from killing everyone. As a result, it had been nearly 10 days, and neither Zhang Tianqi nor the 3 elders of the Zhang clan had seen their shadow. One of the Zhang clan warriors frowned and said, "It's been so long from Mount Tai County to Linzhong County. Why haven't they come back yet?" The eldest Zhang clan, who was sitting in the main seat, shook his head and said, "I don't know, but I've sent someone to look for them. I hope nothing happens to them." Because the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County was a collateral branch, there was no hierarchy in the clan. They didn't even have a master. Those who were strong and qualified could become elders, while the others were the stewards of the clan, each in charge of the clan's affairs. The advantage of this was that they could avoid being dragged down when the master was muddle-headed. But at the same time, if the elders didn't give up their positions, it would be difficult for them to gain real power. So now the eldest Zhang clan even had some dark thoughts in his mind. It would be better if the 3 Zhang clan elders never came back. An inner gang realm martial artist of the Zhang family shook his head and said, "This is a complete mess. The elders even hid it from us. Do they really think that we are so shallow that we will give ourselves away in front of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery? Now even we have been deceived." The others didn't say anything. The elders treated them like children, worried that they were not shrewd enough. Didn't they also think that the elders were muddle-headed and made a wrong decision, which was why they secretly hired the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to kill them? To put it simply, there was a lot of conflict within the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County. It was so serious that both sides didn't trust each other. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, the warrior of the Zhang clan snorted coldly and said, "You guys continue to wait. I'm going out to get some fresh air." With that, the warrior of the Zhang clan directly left the meeting hall. After a while, the eldest Zhang clan frowned and said, "Where is the 4th prince?" "What the hell? Call him back. Let's discuss it. If we don't see him by tomorrow, we'll send some people to investigate again. This time we'll inquire about a few more places." An inner gang realm warrior nodded and went out to call someone. However, he didn't come back for a long time. The 4 people present suddenly felt that something was wrong. The eldest Zhang clan's expression suddenly changed. In fact, something was wrong a long time ago. It was just that they were all thinking about why the Zhang clan elders and the others didn't come back, so they didn't notice it. The Zhang clan's mansion was so big and the Zhang clan didn't have a curfew. It was possible that some of the Zhang clan's disciples would cause a ruckus in their own house even in the middle of the night. Some sounds would spread out, and even if they stayed in the meeting hall, they would still be able to hear it. In the end, they didn't know when the sounds around them gradually disappeared, and it began to become silent. The silence was terrifying. Chapter 113. By the time the 4 people from the Zhang family realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. However, they couldn't be blamed for their lack of vigilance. They were worried about the 3 elders of the Zhang family, and they were in their own family. Who could be so vigilant? Just as the Zhang family's eldest brother was about to get up, the door to the meeting hall was pushed open and 2 heads rolled in front of everyone. The faces of the Zhang family members changed abruptly. Those were the heads of the 2 Zhang family martial artists who had just left. Chu Xiu calmly walked into the house and sighed, "This soundproof array formation is really useful. It's a pity that it's a one-time use. By the way, does the Zhang clan of Mount Tai County have this thing?" Just now, Chu Xiu set up a soundproof array outside the Zhang family's meeting hall. It could isolate all sounds outside the array. It was also found by Chu Xiu from the things of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. Ordinary small clans could not afford to support formation masters. The Linzhong Commandery's Zhang clan used to be a large clan, so they had quite a number of formations passed down. Unfortunately, the Zhang clan no longer had any formation masters. Formations were something that could only be used once. When it came to Chu Xiu, all that was left was the soundproof formation and other ordinary formations that were used. Kill? The eldest Zhang family didn't say anything else. He directly shouted and charged at Chu Xiu with the other 3. Although they didn't know why the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society wanted to deal with them, the other party had already killed 2 people from the Zhang family. This matter definitely couldn't be resolved peacefully. In fact, the eldest Zhang family was most afraid that the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery would be in trouble. They also knew the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. If the hired assassins were killed by the target, the Blue Dragon Society wouldn't retaliate against the target. Instead, they would retaliate against the employer. Previously, they were the ones who hired the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to kill the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. In the end, there was no news from the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery. Even the 3 elders on their side had disappeared. Now, the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society suddenly attacked them. Could it be that they had misjudged the strength of the Zhang family of Linzhong Commandery, causing the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to fail their mission? As a result, they were the target of revenge. If that really happened, even if they could defeat the assassin in front of them, they would still have to face trouble from the Zhang clan of Linzhong Commandery. But when they truly exchanged blows, Zhang family's eldest brother discovered that he was wrong, gravely wrong. What he was considering now was not how to defeat the assassin in front of him, but how to survive under the assassin's hands. They were both inner invulnerability realm martial artists, But the pressure that this assassin from the Blue Dragon Society gave him was almost the same as that of a physical invulnerability realm martial artist. The continuous knife strikes that were like crimson drizzle fell. The opponent seemed to be playing it down, but the result was that they had to expend a lot of effort to block even one strike. Just now, Zhang family's eldest brother shouldn't have shouted kill. If he had shouted flee, they might have had a chance. Chu Xiu's knife strikes were extremely strange and fierce. After Zhang family's eldest brother was forced into a desperate situation, the other three hurriedly came to his aid. However, at this time, Chu Xiu suddenly withdrew his knife and retreated, directly engaging in close combat. The great sacrificial grappling hand directly tore off the arm of a Zhang family martial artist that was holding a sword, and with one strike, he beheaded the martial artist. One of the people behind him condensed a crimson-red astral energy in his hands and attacked towards Chu Xiu's back. However, Chu Xiu directly turned around and blasted out with the great violet sun palm. His opponent was instantly sent flying, and his entire arm was purplish-black in color. The violet sun devil flames entered his body, and the powerful force erupted, causing him to howl miserably. Run! Zhang family's eldest brother shouted and frantically fled outside with another martial artist. But at this moment, the red sleeve saber in Chu Xiu's hand directly left his hand, and he threw it out with the powerful saber momentum of Return of the Azure Dragon. The power of piercing the sun and moon suddenly erupted, and a thick blood aura was attached to the blade. Although it was not gang energy, it could still be indirectly separated from the body. Zhang family's eldest brother subconsciously slashed out with his sword, wanting to deflect the red sleeve saber. Who knew that the blood aura on the red sleeve saber exploded when it was still a few feet away from him, directly blasting away the long sword in his hand. The saber blade pierced into Zhang family's eldest brother's chest, and he was abruptly nailed to the pillar of the hall. At this time, the last martial artist was about to escape from the door. His eyes flashed with endless horror. The person in front of him was simply terrifying. They were all in the inner invulnerability realm, but it was difficult for the Zhang family's people to even take 3 moves of the other party in a one-on-one fight. Now, with 4 against 1, they were still easily killed by the other party. But it didn't matter. If others died, he could still live. Their Zhang family still had thousands of disciples. As long as they could escape and shout, not to mention that the other party was only an inner invulnerability realm martial artist, even if the other party was a physical invulnerability realm martial artist, they could still use their lives to exhaust the other party to death. But the moment he pushed open the door of the meeting hall, Chu Xiu's figure was like a maggot attached to a bone. He stuck close to his back, and with the great sacrificial grappling hand, he directly twisted the other party's arm and threw him back into the meeting hall. In less than 10 minutes, 3 of the Zhang family's 4 people were already dead. Previously, the person who was hit by Chu Xiu's great purple sun hand could have survived, but unfortunately he courted death himself. He didn't realize the horror of this domineering purple sun demonic flame, and he actually wanted to use his true chi to strangle the purple sun demonic flame. In the end, it caused the purple sun demonic flame to erupt, and in the end, it completely tore the other party's heart meridian. The survivor of the Zhang family, whose arms were twisted off, trembled and said, "Why did the Blue Dragon Society attack my Zhang family? Let me live, my Zhang family is willing to give you anything." In fact, the reason at the moment was no longer important. Anyway, he was the only inner invulnerability realm martial artist left in the Zhang family, and the 3 elders' lives were basically unknown. It was more important to save their lives first. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I ask, you answer. It's that simple, don't waste any time." The inner invulnerability realm martial artist nodded repeatedly. "Does your Zhang family have half a piece of technique transmission jade slip?" The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes." "What does it look like?" The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist frowned and pondered. There were so many things in their Zhang family's treasury, how could he remember everything clearly? After thinking carefully for a long time, the Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist hesitated and said, "It seems to be amber, and it looks extraordinary. As for its specific origin, only the elders know." "Where is that technique transmission jade slip?" The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist hurriedly said, "In my Zhang family's treasury, the entrance is guarded by my Zhang family's disciples. An outsider like you can't enter at all. Even if you force your way in, you'll be discovered. Let me out and I'll bring it to you. Don't worry, my martial arts are already crippled, so I definitely won't play tricks on you." "You really won't play tricks on me?" Chu Xiu asked. The Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist nodded repeatedly. That's true, but unfortunately, I don't believe it. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu directly pressed his palm on the other party's chest, and the purple sun devil flame entered his body. Even though Chu Xiu's palm strength was not great, it still made the other party endure the burning pain of the devil flame, lying on the ground and constantly wailing. However, because there was a soundproof formation, no matter how loud the commotion he made, the people outside could not hear it. When the Zhang family inner invulnerability realm martial artist had already lost consciousness from the pain, and did not even have the strength to wail, he could only keep twitching on the ground. Only then did Chu Xiu take action and pull out the purple sun devil flame. Lifting the martial artist's head, Chu Xiu displayed the art of extinguishing heaven and earth, extinguishing soul transfer. His eyes were like an abyss, constantly devouring the spirit of the martial artist, causing him to fall into it unknowingly. Chu Xiu's art of extinguishing heaven and earth, extinguishing soul transfer could only be considered to be at the initial level. It was basically impossible to completely control an inner invulnerability realm martial artist, so he had to completely torture the other party until he collapsed, and then take action when the other party's spirit was at its weakest. Is the technique transmission jade slip in your Zhang family's treasury? The martial artist stammered. No, the treasury only has the usual cultivation resources. The truly precious treasures are all in the second level of the secret chamber under the back mountain. How do we enter the secret chamber? There are 2 levels in the secret chamber. The 6 of us together can enter the first level, and the second level requires the keys of 3 elders. After speaking, Chu Xiu directly shattered the other party's heart meridian with one palm. Just now, Chu Xiu did not know whether what the other party said was true or not, but he was suspicious by nature, so he had to verify it himself before taking action. Now it seemed that it was true. This Zhang family martial artist was indeed playing tricks. If he let him go or left alone, it would attract a large number of Zhang family disciples. It was a pity that he did not expect Chu Xiu to have the art of extinguishing heaven and earth, extinguishing soul transfer. After being controlled by Chu Xiu, if he wanted to lie, he might as well bite his tongue and commit suicide. Of course, in front of Chu Xiu, even if he wanted to commit suicide, there was probably not much hope. After collecting the keys of the 6 people, Chu Xiu sighed in pity. The 3 Zhang family elders also had keys, but the person who searched them was not Chu Xiu. Moreover, they did not think of this at the time, so the keys were naturally destroyed. However, Chu Xiu's target was the cultivation transmission jade strip. He would think about it after obtaining it. He sneaked all the way to the secret chamber in the back mountain of the Zhang family. There was no one guarding this place. For a large clan like the Zhang family, which had been passed down for several generations, it was necessary for a crafty rabbit to have 3 burrows. Not only did the clan have 2 places to hide treasures, one in the dark and the other in the light, there were probably some places outside that had treasures and resources in case of emergencies. The secret chamber on the first level was not large, only several meters in radius. The various items inside were stored in secret boxes or other precious materials. Chu Xiu rummaged through them. Most of them were ordinary items. The real premium items should be on the second level. Unfortunately, with his current strength, it was almost impossible for him to break the door of the secret chamber. The other half of the cultivation transmission jade strip was also on this level. However, it was casually stored in a secret box and placed to the side. Clearly, the Zhang family of Mount Tai County did not attach much importance to this item and casually threw it to a corner. After sweeping the Zhang family's secret chamber clean, Chu Xiu turned and left, setting the Zhang family's meeting hall on fire. Chapter 114. The fire buried 6 Zhang family's inner aura realm warriors. Because of the soundproof array, the other Zhang family members only discovered it when the fire in the meeting hall spread to the extent of a big fire. However, it was already too late. 6 inner aura realm warriors were inexplicably killed and burned to the ground. The entire Zhang family was in a complete mess. Of course, Chu Xiu was too lazy to continue pursuing these matters. He took the cultivation jade slip that had already been broken in half and prepared to find someone to repair it. The cultivation jade slip had been broken in half. If it wasn't repaired, it would be impossible to read the cultivation method within. Repairing the cultivation jade slip required an array master. There was an array master in the Heavenly Sin branch, and that was the Ghost Hand King. In fact, the Ghost Hand King could only be considered a half-baked array master. He had learned arrays for a period of time, and he even knew medicine, hidden weapons, and other miscellaneous things. He was like a clown in a vaudeville and he could often take out many strange things. Repairing the cultivation jade slip wasn't too complicated. With the Ghost Hand King's attainments and arrays, he should be able to do it. However, Chu Xiu didn't feel at ease giving this to the Ghost Hand King. The relationship between the hitmen of the Azure Dragon Society could be described as simple, but it could also be described as complicated. When there was no conflict of interest, they got along well, but when there was a conflict of interest, it was hard to say what would happen. To put it simply, Chu Xiu didn't trust the Ghost Hand King, and he wouldn't use a treasure to test the character of others. However, even if he couldn't give it to the Ghost Hand King, it didn't mean that Chu Xiu had no other way. He didn't know other array masters, but it didn't mean that others didn't know. Previously, Wind Sweeping Tower's Wind Middleman Lu Yu gave Chu Xiu a way to contact him. As the Wind Sweeping Tower's Wind Middleman, Lu Yu definitely had this information. Although Wind Sweeping Tower had a good reputation, Chu Xiu couldn't fully trust Lu Yu. However, compared to finding the Ghostly Hand King, the only good thing about Lu Yu was that his strength was lower. Chu Xiu was confident that he could control him. Lu Yu had a place to stay in Mount Tai County. Although Chu Xiu no longer had a wanted order on him, it was best for him not to show his face in public. Therefore, Chu Xiu only left a mark in one of the places according to Lu Yu's contact information and stayed in a dilapidated temple on a barren mountain. When Lu Yu saw the mark, he immediately came over. "May I know why Official Chu is looking for me?" Lu Yu's face was full of joy. He really didn't expect that not long after he took the initiative to get to know Chu Xiu, business would come knocking on his door so quickly. Chu Xiu said directly, "I have a technique transmission jade slip, but it has been broken in half. Now I need to find an array master to repair it." After listening, Lu Yu immediately said, "Official Chu, don't worry. Although most of the array masters are in the sect, there are still some array masters who don't like to be restrained, so they act alone. I promise that I will find an array master with the best array Dao for you, Official Chu." Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "The array master I want doesn't need to be very skilled in array Dao. It's just repairing the technique transmission jade slip. It's not too difficult. What I need is a reliable array master. The most important thing is that he is reliable." In the anemophilia industry, Lu Yu's brain was the most flexible. From Chu Xiu's tone, he could hear what Chu Xiu meant. Lu Yu was just worried that the technique transmission jade slip in his hands would be secretly read or changed by an array master. Lu Yu thought for a while and said, "Official Chu, I really do have someone here who meets Official Chu's requirements. When the time comes, Official Chu, you will definitely be satisfied." After saying that, Lu Yu brought Chu Xiu to find that array master. However, when they arrived, Chu Xiu was a little surprised. The array masters of loose cultivators were also array masters. Basically, those who could become array masters were not poor. Basically, some small sects would even line up to ask the array master to help them set up array formations. At the same time, those famous blacksmiths were the same. Many cultivators would bring treasures and materials to ask the array master to forge a weapon for them. This was a very common thing. However, this time, Lu Yu brought Chu Xiu to a rundown town. It looked like an ordinary and dilapidated courtyard. This did not look like the residence of an array master. Lu Yu was too lazy to even knock on the door. He directly pushed the door open and said loudly, "Old Huang, I have business for you, and it is a big business." In the courtyard, an old man in his 60s walked out slowly. He was dressed in ordinary clothes but looked very neat. When he saw Chu Xiu in the courtyard, a strange look appeared in his eyes. He said, "Someone from the Blue Dragon Society? Lu Yu, you brat, you couldn't have tricked this big shot from the Azure Dragon Society, could you? Don't you know what I look like now?" After saying that, the old man cupped his hands at Chu Xiu and said, "Lord, although this old man used to be an array master, he is now useless. Don't be fooled by this kid. This old man can't even set up the lowest array formation now." When Lu Yu heard this, he immediately became angry. "Old Huang, I was kind enough to introduce you to business and you actually doubt me? When have I, Lu Yu, ever fooled others? Not to mention this is the top assassin of the Blue Dragon Society, Blood Demon Chu Xiu, Official Chu. Official Chu only wants to repair a cultivation jade slip. It's very simple. Don't tell me your hands are so shaky that you can't even repair a cultivation jade slip? That old Huang had already retired from the world for many years. What blood demon? What Chu Xiu? He didn't know a single thing. However, after hearing that the assassin from the Azure Dragon Society only wanted to repair a cultivation transmission jade slip, Old Man Huang nodded and said, "That's not a problem. However, different cultivation transmission jade slips require different amounts of time. The higher the grade of the cultivation technique, the more information it contains, and the more formation arrays it contains. As a result, the time required will be longer as well. Lu Yu said to Chu Xiu, "Official Chu, although this old Huang's cultivation base has been crippled, his skill in the array Dao is still there. He can't set up a formation, but repairing a cultivation jade slip shouldn't be a problem. And with his current state, even if he swallowed your cultivation jade slip, it wouldn't be of any use." Lu Yu and Old Huang seemed to be very familiar with each other. Old Huang didn't seem to mind him saying that he was crippled in front of him. He could more or less understand why this Blue Dragon Society assassin had come looking for him to repair his cultivation jade slip. Old Huang bitterly smiled at Chu Xiu and said, "Lord, you've also seen my current state. At my peak I was at the Xiantian realm, but now I can't even maintain my blood condensation realm. Setting up a formation also requires inner qi as the foundation. With my current strength I can't even set up a formation. At most, I can only help others repair formations. So please don't worry, Lord. Even if the cultivation jade slip you want me to repair contains a peerless divine art, a cripple like me won't be able to cultivate it. Furthermore, I've been a formation master for half my life. I know what I can do and what I can't do." Glancing at Old Huang, Chu Xiu nodded and said, "That's fine. Then I'll leave it to you. Don't worry, as long as you can help me repair this cultivation jade slip, the reward will not be small." Chu Xiu was quite satisfied with Old Huang's help. A cripple was much more reliable than a highly skilled formation master. Furthermore, repairing a cultivation jade slip was a simple matter. Even a highly skilled formation master wouldn't be able to do it much faster. The most important thing was that Old Huang's strength was very weak. He had barely reached the blood condensation realm, but in a real fight he probably wouldn't even be able to beat someone who had only learned martial arts for a few days. Chu Xiu was still used to being in control of everything. If Lu Yu found an internal Qi realm cultivator with a large group of formation masters, Chu Xiu wouldn't be able to trust them. Taking out the two halves of the cultivation jade slip, Chu Xiu handed it to Old Huang and said, "This is the cultivation jade slip. How long will it take to repair it?" Old Huang looked at it carefully and said, "This cultivation jade slip is not simple. There are many formation runes inside and they are at least at the 5th revolution. It will take a long time to repair, around 2 to 3 months. During this time Lord can wait here. Of course it's fine even if you leave." This old man wouldn't dare to play any tricks in front of Lord. The repair time was much longer than Chu Xiu had expected. He had thought it would only take a few days. "I'll leave it with you for now. This is the deposit." Saying that, Chu Xiu tossed a piece of purple gold to Old Huang. At the same time he tossed one to Lu Yu as a deposit. Seeing the purple gold, Old Huang's eyes immediately lit up. He did not lack ordinary valuables. After all, he was once an innate realm formation master. He would not starve to death. However, purple gold was a strange metal that could be used for setting up formations and refining artifacts. It was a hard currency and it was not easy to obtain a piece. "Lord, please rest assured. This old man will definitely use the fastest speed to repair this cultivation jade slip." Old Huang received the purple gold and cupped his hands with a face full of joy. Chu Xiu nodded and left the town with Lu Yu. When they separated, Lu Yu cupped his hands and said to Chu Xiu, "Lord, please rest assured. Old Huang is still trustworthy. Furthermore, he won't attract attention here and will be absolutely safe." Chu Xiu glanced at Lu Yu and said indifferently, "It's fine. I believe in my own strength as well." After saying that, Chu Xiu's figure moved and he left. Sensing Chu Xiu's ice-cold gaze, Lu Yu immediately felt a chill run down his spine. He understood what Chu Xiu meant. If something happened to the cultivation jade slip, not to mention Old Huang, even he would be implicated. Chu Xiu believed in his own strength. Hence, he did not care about wind-sweeping pavilion's background. He looked at the purple gold in his hand and weighed it in his hand. It was about 10 taels of silver. Just the deposit alone was already quite a lot. However, Lu Yu still shook his head. It was not easy to deal with this group of fiendish Blue Dragon Society assassins. This money was not easy to earn. Chapter 115. After Chu Xiu returned to the Blue Dragon Society, Fire Slave and Wolf King both knew what Chu Xiu had done. However, they were smart enough not to ask Chu Xiu what he had obtained from the Zhang family in Daishan County. The freedom of the Heavenly Sin branch was still very high. There were so many tasks that they could choose from. In addition, they did not have the strength that Chu Xiu had to look down on a clan. This kind of thing was something that Chu Xiu could do, but they could not. After returning, Chu Xiu did not choose to carry out the task. Instead, he continued to stay in the Blue Dragon Society to cultivate and digest all the things he had obtained from the Zhang family. Chu Xiu never accumulated things like cultivation resources. He always used them when he had them, and when he ran out of them he would take on tasks and continue to earn cultivation resources. From the inner invulnerability stage to the physical invulnerability stage required the most cultivation resources. On the contrary, from the physical invulnerability stage to the 3 flowers at once prominence or the 5 cheese origin stage, what was needed was not a large number of cultivation resources, but one's own potential and comprehension. Just as Chu Xiu was almost done with his cultivation and was about to come out, the Ghost Hand King suddenly called Chu Xiu and asked him to go to the square to wait for the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. When Chu Xiu arrived at the square, he found that 80% of the killers in the Heavenly Sin Branch were gathered there. Moreover, all the killers above level 4 with code names were there. Chu Xiu asked Fire Slave in a low voice, "What's going on?" Fire Slave chuckled and said, "There should be a big group mission. Otherwise we wouldn't all be called here. Looking at the current scale, this group mission is not small." After a while, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader walked out and said to everyone present in a deep voice, "The branch recently accepted a level 6 extermination mission. I was prepared to go personally, but I was entangled with other more difficult missions and couldn't get away. So this time the mission will be handed over to you. You don't need to contact the employer. Just kill them." As he spoke, Sky Crime Branch leader gave everyone a copy of the mission brief. There was only the mission objective and no information about the employer. Looking at the mission brief, Chu Xiu had a strange expression on his face. How much hatred did the person who issued the mission have with the other party? This task was very simple. The elder of the Spirit Sword sect, the number 1 sect in the Autumn Ridge County, Hidden Spirit Sword Yao Nanqian, was ready to retire from the Jianghu. He was going to hold a washing his hands in a golden basin ceremony at the Yao family manor in the Autumn Ridge County. What the Blue Dragon Society wanted to do was to kill Yao Nanqian and destroy the Yao family before the golden basin washing ceremony was completed. It had to be said that this mission was quite vicious. Washing his hands in a golden basin meant that he would completely withdraw from the martial arts world. He would let go of all his grudges and prepare for retirement. However, the employer wanted him to die before he could prepare for retirement. This could be said to be a huge grudge. Moreover, it was not an exaggeration to set this mission as a level 6 mission. Although the strength of the Yao family was not strong, with only Yao Nanqian being a physical invulnerability martial artist, if they made a move during the golden basin washing ceremony, someone would definitely intervene in this matter. Not to mention, although the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect would not come, he would send other physical invulnerability elders or deacons. Moreover, the Spirit Sword sect was the number 1 sect in the Qiuling County, and Yao Nanqian was also a senior who had been in the martial arts world for decades. There would probably be a lot of people who would come to participate in his golden basin washing ceremony. Among those people who would just watch from the sidelines and who would make a move, it was still unknown. Therefore, setting this mission as a level 6 mission was not only the intention of the Blue Dragon Society, but also the choice of the employer. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader looked at the crowd and said, "For this mission, all the assassins above level 4 must go. The rest of the assassins below level 4 must also go. For this kind of large-scale group mission, there must be a temporary commander. Who among you will take this position?" The Ghost Hand King, Fire Slave, Wolf King, and the others exchanged a look, then they all kept their silence and remained silent. They were only in the inner aura stage. Usually, they could be the commander when they brought other innate stage assassins to carry out the mission. However, now there were 3 more powerful existences, so of course they could not steal this limelight. Cruel Sword Yen Bugue directly said, "I'm not interested." He could kill people, but with his character, if he really wanted to be the commander, perhaps he would only say the word kill. His style of doing things was very simple and crude. Everyone present set their eyes on Chu Xiu and Tangya. In the past, when they carried out the mission, Tangya was the temporary commander, and with his physical invulnerability, he was one of the strongest in the Heavenly Sin Branch. However, the mission of exterminating the Yu family by Chu Xiu was too dazzling. With the power of one person, he was able to directly exterminate the entire Yu family. It could be seen that Chu Xiu's ability and strategy. Therefore, it was a difficult problem to decide who should be the leader of these 2 people. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader looked at the 2 of them and suddenly said, "Last time, Chu Xiu's performance in exterminating the Yu family was not bad. Moreover, the employer requested us to make the mission a little bigger. Chu Xiu's reputation in the Jianghu should be a little bigger. Therefore this time Chu Xiu will be the leader. Tanya, do you have any objections? Tanya only smiled and said casually, I will obey Lord Branch Leader's orders. Chu Xiu also cupped his hands expressionlessly and said, understood. This branch leader had used too many methods to keep his subordinates in check. His identity as a commander was limited to this operation and did not have any actual power. Just for such a small matter he still wanted to sow discord between him and Tanya, both openly and secretly. In fact, Division Leader Heavenly Sin could have given this mission to Chu Xiu. However, Division Leader Heavenly Sin had asked for Tanya's opinion at the end, which carried a strong sense of alienation and provocation. It made Tanya feel that he was inferior to Chu Xiu. Division Leader Heavenly Sin even hinted that if Tanya did not agree, he could say it out loud. Actually, the Heavenly Sin branch leader did this only because Chu Xiu had been too close to Ghost Hand King and the others recently. The Heavenly Sin branch leader did not want his subordinates to kill each other, but at the same time he did not want them to be too close. Right now it was fine that Chu Xiu was close to Ghost Hand King and the others, but he did not want his 3 strongest assassins to be so close as well. This was all guessed by Chu Xiu, but he did not say anything. There was no need to ruin the Heavenly Sin branch leader's reputation for such a small matter. As for whether Tanya bore a grudge against him or not, Chu Xiu did not care about it. As long as the other side did not carry out the grudge in his heart, Chu Xiu naturally could not be bothered to care about them. In other words, ever since Chu Xiu stepped into the Jianghu, he had killed many people and offended even more people. There were many people who secretly bore grudges and even wanted to kill him. Right now he did not care about this one. The Heavenly Sin branch leader nodded his head in satisfaction and said, since this is the case, you all should act quickly. The earlier you complete the mission, the more missions the branch has accumulated. Understood. The assassins present all replied respectfully. Outside the Anyang prefecture of the Autumn Ridge County, the Yao family village was located near a small lake outside the Anyang prefecture. The scenery was very beautiful. Previously the Yao family village had been relatively low-key. However, today because Yao Nanxian was going to hold the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony, the Yao family village could be said to be very lively. Outside the Yao family village, several of Yao Nanxian's sons were greeting the guests at the entrance. The guests were all disciples from the big sects, and there were also some martial artists from small sects or loose cultivators who came to watch the ceremony. Of course, their treatment was not as polite as those from the big sections. Usually they would just send the congratulatory gifts and then enter the village to find a place to sit. Yao Nanxian's reputation in the martial arts world of the Autumn Ridge County was relatively big. He should be the most senior in the Spirit Sword sect. Moreover, he was also well known for his love of guiding the younger generation. It could be said that he was a highly respected elder in Jianghu. Coupled with the power and influence of the Spirit Sword sect, the number of people who came today was not small. Moreover, the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony was not common in the Jianghu. Many people came with curiosity to watch the ceremony. Actually, most of the martial artists who said that they would retire from the Jianghu were just looking for a quiet place to live out their retirement. They would not hold any ceremony because this thing was too important. Once the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony was held, it meant that you could no longer meddle in any Jianghu affairs. Your contacts, your relationship, and your prestige in the Jianghu would be completely washed away along with the washing of hands in a golden basin. After washing of hands in a golden basin, meddling in the Jianghu affairs would be a violation of the rules. Even if it was Yao Nanxian's son who wanted to borrow Yao Nanxian's power, he would not be able to do so. It could be said that this washing of hands in a golden basin completely washed away the identity of a Jianghu person. Of course, there were also benefits. After washing of hands in a golden basin, he would be recognized by all parties. Even those who had a grudge against him could no longer come to find trouble with him. Otherwise, that would be a violation of the rules of the Jianghu, and he would be attacked by everyone. The Jianghu disciple and the Jianghu veteran stepped into the Jianghu. No matter if they were good or bad, once they realized the power and influence, who would want to return to their family and be a rich man? Who would want to put down the sword in their hand and let it rust in the corner? Other places might not know, but at least in Qiuling County in the past decade or so, Yao Nanxian was the first person to hold the washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. He had officially washed his hands in a golden basin in front of many Jianghu people and retired from the Jianghu. As for the others, most of them were just selling dog meat. They said that they were going to retire from the Jianghu, but there was no telling when they would come back to the Jianghu for some reason, just like Su Chongyang who had been killed by Chu Xiu. Inside the Yao clan manor, Lu Yu carried a fan on his back and waved it in his hand. He wobbled around the Yao clan manor, greeting all the cultivators he knew and did not know. He was an anemophilia under the Wind-Sweeping Tower's Daishan County branch. However, there were some problems with the Wind-Sweeping Tower in Chioling County, so it was temporarily under the jurisdiction of Daishan County. Now that such a big thing had happened, he naturally had to come and take a look so that he could get first-hand information. At this moment, a few unaffiliated martial artists who were on good terms with Lu Yu saw him approaching. They all greeted him and said, "Brother Lu, I knew that you would be needed at such an occasion. Come. Come and sit. Tell us about the inside story of old Master Yao's retirement from the Jianghu this time." Lu Yu walked over and sat down. He used his fan to point at the main entrance and said, "Don't be anxious. The big shots haven't all arrived yet. Today is a big event that you guys can only see once in a decade. It's enough for you to brag about." Chapter 116. Li was right. Those who came first were just small potatoes. When the washing ceremony was about to begin, many big shots arrived one after another. The first to arrive were 3 martial artists in the physical invulnerability stage, all dressed in blue with swords on their back. Lu Yu pointed to the 3 people and said, "3 of the 4 sword leaders of the Spirit Sword sect are here. These 3 people have reached the physical invulnerability stage in their prime. It is said that in the past, they were also guided and promoted by Yao Nanqian in the Spirit Sword sect." A martial artist next to him wondered, why didn't the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Sword Lin Feiyu, come? His own elder has washed his hands in the golden basin, so as the sect leader, he should come out. Lu Yu looked around and said in a low voice, "There is some gossip, but it's just gossip, don't take it seriously." The several martial artists present also laughed twice. They knew what Lu Yu meant. How could the news from the wind-sweeping building be gossip? Lu Yu lowered his voice and said, "According to seniority, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Lin Feiyu, is Yao Nanqian's junior, the same generation as the 4 sword leaders present. It's just that Lin Feiyu's aptitude was mediocre, so Yao Nanqian promoted other people. However, because Lin Feiyu had a conflict with his disciple, he opposed him and even suppressed him, which led to the enmity between the two. As a result, no one expected that the previously selected successor of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect died prematurely, and the seemingly mediocre Lin Feiyu actually soared to the sky. Soon after Lin Feiyu stepped into the physical invulnerability stage, he directly comprehended and condensed the 3 flowers above his head. After taking over the position of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect a year ago, he observed the Nirvana Spirit Sword mark left by the ancestor of the Spirit Sword sect, gathered the 5 chi in his body, and reached the 5 chi unification stage. He was only 1 step away from the realm of the unity of man and nature. Think about it carefully, the disciple who was suppressed by him in the past has now achieved far more than the ancestors of the Spirit Sword sect. It's not easy for Yao Nanqian to stay in the Spirit Sword sect for such a long time. He might have washed his hands in a golden basin today for this reason. Now, Lin Feiyu has allowed 3 physical invulnerability mighty ones who have the best relationship with Yao Nanqian to attend his washing ceremony. This is already considered generous. A martial artist doubtfully said, "But the outside world said that Master Yao is a fair person and likes to promote the younger generation. Not only the disciples of Spirit Sword sect, but even the young martial artists of Jianghu have been promoted by Master Yao." Lu Yu looked around and said, "It's not convenient for me to say much today. I will only tell everyone one thing. There has never been a saint in the martial world. It's normal to help those who are close to them and ignore reason. If one's own disciple is being bullied, no matter how just a person is, would they side with outsiders?" Several people present nodded hesitantly. Just as they were about to say something, several groups of people came in from the outside. Lu Yu said as if he was counting his family treasures. The Zhou family of East Ridge, the Lu family of Tyrant Water, the Jihua sect, the Red Flame Saber sect. TSK, more than 10 big sects have come. Yao Nanqian has been in the Chioling County and the Eastern martial arts world for half of his life, and there are really a lot of people who give him face. Hey, this is a real big shot. With that, a military martial artist in his early 30s came in from the door. He was wearing a silver radiant armor with a long saber at his waist. Seeing this person, it was not the eldest son of the Yao family who came to greet him, but Yao Nanqian himself. Yao Nanqian was in his 70s this year. He had a square face and gray hair. However, he had the strength of the physical invulnerability stage, so it was easy for him to live for more than 100 years. Now, although his qi and blood had declined, he still retained most of his strength. Today, Yao Nanxian was wearing a brocade robe and did not carry any weapons. He was dressed like a rich man. When he saw the military martial artist, he immediately greeted him with a smile and said, "General Xiang, your presence brings light to my humble dwelling." General Xiang waved his hand and said, "Please don't make fun of me, old Master Yao. I'm just a lieutenant under the mountain-subduing army. I don't deserve the title of general." Yao Nanxian smiled and said, "You deserve it. Who doesn't know that General Xiang is now the mountain-subduing army's General Yin Luohua's trusted subordinate? You've already reached the physical invulnerability stage at such a young age. I estimate that it won't be long before General Xiang reaches the three flowers at once prominence stage. When that time comes, you will definitely be given the title of Deputy General. It doesn't matter if you call me General sooner or later." Hearing Yao Nanxian say this, General Xiang did not say much. He just casually took off the long saber at his waist and threw it to Yao Nanxian as a congratulatory gift, then walked straight in. It was normal for martial artists to give weapons as congratulatory gifts, but the problem was that Yao Nanxian was about to wash his hands of martial arts. In the end, General Xiang actually gave him a saber. This was very unlucky. When he received the gift, the corner of Yao Nanxian's eye twitched. However, he did not dare to say anything. He only obediently let the man in. Lu Yu said in a low voice from behind, "Among the 9 counties of Eastern Yen, the Northern Yen Imperial Court has stationed 3 armies in Eastern Yen. Our Qiuling County is actually under the mountain-subduing army's control. This person is called Xiang Weiyang, and he is the trusted subordinate of the mountain-subduing army's General Yin Luohua, the Flying Tiger. He was not famous before, but after he was promoted by Yin Luohua, he shone with extraordinary talent. He participated in the battle against the 36 great bandits of the northern lands. Within a day he led a team to eliminate the Fang family of Linzhong County, which was disrespectful to the imperial court. His methods were decisive and fierce." A martial artist beside him said in a low voice, "It's a little strange for someone from the imperial court to participate in our Jianghu's washing hands ceremony." Lu Yu said in a low voice, "There's nothing strange about it. In the past our northern yen was weak, and we were suppressed by Eastern Qi. It was because of the great talent and strategy of the current emperor. He united the Northern Yen martial arts community and resolved the 36 great bandits of the northern lands internally, and defeated Eastern Qi externally. He destroyed that arrogant Wei kingdom and turned it into our northern Yan's Wei county. Although the conflict between the imperial court and the Jianghu has become more intense in recent years, the old relationship between the two still exists. With Yao Nanxian's status, the mountain-subduing army sent a lieutenant with a bright future to support him. This is already giving him face. After Xiang Weiyang, who represented the Northern Yen Imperial Court, arrived, a few other people from the major sects followed. The most famous of them was an old monk. The old monk seemed to be on good terms with Yao Nanxian. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Yao Nanxian personally led him into the manor. Lu Yu said in a low voice, "The abbot of Jinhua Temple, Zen Master Heng Shan, is a physical invulnerability expert from Mount Tai County. Of course he is more famous for his attainments in Buddhism. He is the strongest among all the Buddhist temples in Mount Tai County. I heard that he was once invited by the Great Light Temple to discuss Buddhism. Zen Master Heng Shan is a good friend of Yao Nanxian. This time, Yao Nanxian is going to wash his hands in a golden basin, and he was also invited to be a witness." The few martial artists behind Lu Yu nodded. Although they liked to listen to the gossip of the Jianghu, those were all rumors and idle chatter. How could they be as well informed as Lu Yu, a true anemophilia expert? After an hour, almost all the people had arrived. Yao Nanxian walked up to a high platform in the middle of the courtyard, cupped his hands across his chest and said, "Fellow Taoists, today, you have given me face and come to this old man's washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. This old man has nothing to say but gratitude. In the past, this old man was just a down-and-out small businessman. When I was in my 20s, I was recognized by my master and entered the Spirit Sword sect. After mingling in the Eastern Yen martial arts world for several decades, I managed to make a small name for myself." Hearing this, someone below immediately said, "Old Master Yao, if your reputation is only insignificant, then we will truly become nameless people." Yao Nanxian smiled and said, "There are many heroes in this Jianghu. Compared to them, if this old man is not small, then what am I? It's precisely because I've seen these heroes that I feel that I'm already old and can no longer contribute to the sect. Instead of staying in the sect and being a rice worm, I might as well withdraw from the world of martial arts and spend my remaining years in peace. After stepping into the Jianghu for several decades, I have seen wind and rain and experienced waves. It's time for me to go ashore and write off all the gratitude and grudges. Today this old man Yao Nanqian officially wash his hands in a golden basin. From now on, I no longer care about the gratitude and grudges of the Jianghu, nor do I care about the Jianghu. Bring the golden basin. As soon as his voice fell, Yao Nanqian's eldest son brought the golden basin filled with water. The head monk of Jinhua Temple, Monk Heng Shan, also stood on the side as a witness to this washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. Monk Heng Shan's responsibility as a witness was not small. As a witness, it meant that he could prove that Yao Nanqian had washed his hands in a golden basin. Later on, if Yao Nanqian ever intervened in the Jianghu affairs, that would be breaking the rules. As a witness, he had to be the first one to make a move against Yao Nanqian. And if there were other people who made a move against Yao Nanqian, that would also be breaking the rules. As a witness, he had to be the first one to stand up and help Yao Nanqian by contacting the Jianghu people for help. It could be said that this was a very troublesome thing. If it was not a real good friend or a fellow disciple of the sect, no one would accept this position. Everyone below was waiting for the final scene of washing of hands in a golden basin. However, at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. "Old Master Yao, you are prepared to wash your hands in a golden basin and settle all the gratitude and grudges in the Jianghu. But have you asked others if they are willing to settle all the gratitude and grudges with you? After stepping into the Jianghu and picking up a sword, your hands are stained with blood and are also stained with karma. Not to mention a golden basin, even a purple gold basin cannot wash away the blood on your hands and cannot wash away the karma on your body. There is a good saying, the world is like the tide and people are like the water. Only a few people in the Jianghu will return. Old Master Yao, it won't be so easy for you to withdraw from the Jianghu so peacefully." Everyone abruptly looked behind them, only to see close to 100 black-clothed cultivators standing on the walls of the Yao clan manor at some point in time. A pitch-black samurai suit, a black iron bamboo hat with golden patterns, and a strange black iron mask. The leader's black iron mask had a hideous blood stain. He looked at Yao Nanqian with a cold gaze. The dense killing intent shrouded the entire Yao clan manor in a dense chill. Chapter 117. Blue Dragon Society. The Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society. There were many taboos in the pugilistic world. For example, one could bring weapons normally, but not during ancestral worship. Otherwise it would be inauspicious. However, no matter how inauspicious it was, could it be more inauspicious than encountering the Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society during the Golden Basin washing ceremony? Everyone present looked at Yao Nanqian. In fact, they were also very confused. Old Master Yao had a very good reputation in Qiuling Prefecture and even in the entire pugilistic world of East Yen. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people attending the Golden Basin washing ceremony today. If it was a nameless person, they wouldn't care whether he or she washed his hands in a golden basin or a silver basin. Moreover, although the Assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were the strongest in the pugilistic world, they were also the most expensive. How many assassins did the Blue Dragon Society send out? There were already a few people who had some understanding of the Heavenly Sin branch. Among them was the recently famous Blood Devil, Chu Xiu, who was ranked on the Longhu list. There were also Cruel Sword Yen Bugui and Tang Ye, who were infamous in the Heavenly Sin branch before Chu Xiu. Moreover, although the Ghost Hand King, Fire Slave and Wolf King weren't famous, they were all elite assassins of the Blue Dragon Society since they could leave a mark on their masks. This was something that everyone knew. Apart from these people, there were also close to 100 assassins of the Blue Dragon Society present. With such a large number of people, perhaps even the entire Heavenly Sin branch of the Blue Dragon Society had been mobilized. The people below all had different expressions. Lu Yu and the others also revealed expressions of watching a good show, especially Lu Yu. He directly took out a small notebook and a thin pen, and excitedly recorded something on it. Today he was only here to join in the fun, but he didn't expect to pick up such a big piece of news. The others' mentality was similar to Lu Yu and the others. Even if some people respected Yao Nanqian's character, no one dared to jump out to uphold justice at this time. At this moment, an ordinary person would have been scared out of their wits in the face of such a situation. However, Yao Nanqian could be considered an existence who had seen great winds and waves. Facing the assassins of the Azure Dragon Society in front of him, he was still confident. Although the Blue Dragon Society is an assassin organization, it is still a sect in the pugilistic world. There are rules that should be followed, right? I have already decided to retire from the world of martial arts. Do you still want to force me? Chu Xiu sneered and said, don't you know why my Blue Dragon Society is here today? If he wanted to leave the world of martial arts, that was fine. He would settle all his past grudges and he would naturally be able to leave the world of martial arts in peace. My Blue Dragon Society is here to help you settle your grudges today. If you don't die in this round, my Blue Dragon Society won't care what basin you use to wash your hands in. At this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan, who was standing beside Yao Nanqian, stood up, put his palms together and chanted Buddha's name. He said, the Blue Dragon Society has its own rules. This old monk is aware of this. However, the Blue Dragon Society naturally has the right to reject the mission. Everyone, today is Brother Yao's retirement ceremony, yet your Blue Dragon Society is so insistent. Aren't you afraid of causing public anger? Is the reward of this mission more important or the public anger of the East Yen martial arts world more important? I believe you can weigh the pros and cons yourself. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows. This old monk just opened his mouth and pushed the Blue Dragon Society to the opposite side of the East Yen martial arts world. Were all monks so eloquent? Chu Xiu looked around and cupped his hands at the others. He said, everyone, you know the rules of the Blue Dragon Society. The Blue Dragon Society is a sword. Whoever spends money, this sword will help that person to kill. How can there be any good people who have been in the world of martial arts for decades? Anyway, I don't believe it. Yao Nanqian has sowed karma. Now, someone is spending a lot of money to ask the Blue Dragon Society to repay this karma. It's reasonable, so please don't interfere. The Blue Dragon Society's rule is not to kill innocent people without paying. However, if anyone obstructs the Blue Dragon Society from killing people, then the Blue Dragon Society doesn't mind killing them first. As soon as the words left his mouth, the expressions of the crowd changed slightly. This assassin from the Azure Dragon Society was a little too arrogant. He actually dared to threaten them in front of everyone. However, threats were just threats. The power of the Blue Dragon Society was there. Whoever dared to help Yao Nanqian resist the Blue Dragon Society at this time was simply courting death. As for those who had the strength to challenge the Blue Dragon Society, their relationship with Yao Nanqian wasn't that good. The disciples of the large sects immediately left and walked to the side, indicating that they didn't want to interfere in this matter. They came to participate in Yao Nanqian's washing ceremony only because of their pride. After all, Yao Nanqian had a good reputation in the East Yen martial arts world. However, in reality, they didn't have any beneficial relationship with Yao Nanqian. What benefits could a person who was going to wash his hands of the golden basin bring to them? As these people from the large sects moved, most of the others looked at each other and stood to the side. Xiang Weiyang, who came from the military, didn't move, but he also didn't stand up to speak for Yao Nanqian. Instead, his eyes revealed a trace of interest. In the past, the Northern Yen Imperial Court in Jianghu had a lot of cooperation. However, that was in the past. Especially in recent years, these people in Jianghu had somewhat gone too far. They even had the tendency to not put the Imperial Court in their eyes. Thus, the Northern Yen Imperial Court couldn't just ignore this. Therefore, whether it was Yao Nanqian's side or the Blue Dragon Society's side, he didn't care who died. At most, he would just watch a big show. Under the coercion of the Blue Dragon Society, most of the martial artists chose to stay neutral and didn't want to get involved in this matter. Only dozens of loose cultivators who had received kindness from Yao Nanqian in the past stood on the side of the Yao family, willing to live and die together with Yao Nanqian. The three physical invulnerability martial artists of the Spirit Sword sect coldly snorted and then stood up. Members of the Blue Dragon Society, don't you think you've gone too far? Do you even put our Spirit Sword sect in your eyes? Even if Martial Uncle Yao has decided to wash his hands of Jianghu, he is still a member of our Spirit Sword sect. If we let you kill Martial Uncle Yao today, where would we put our face? Although the three of them were not Yao Nanqian's disciples in the past, they all relied on Yao Nanqian's promotion to reach their current position in the Spirit Sword sect. Now, whether it was because they were sincerely grateful to Yao Nanqian or simply didn't want others to say that they were ungrateful, in any case they had to stand up. Chu Xiu lightly said, "Don't say that you're from the Spirit Sword sect. Who doesn't know about the matter between Yao Nanqian and your Spirit Sword sect? If the Spirit Sword sect really regards Yao Nanqian as one of their own, why didn't they hold the washing hands and the golden basin ceremony in the Spirit Sword sect, but in the Yao family village? Moreover, why didn't your sect leader Lin show up? Sect leader Lin cares about his face and can't take revenge for the past enmity, so today the Blue Dragon Society will help them take revenge together. Maybe sect leader Lin will even secretly thank us. As soon as his voice fell, Chu Xiu directly waved his hand and shouted, "Do it!" The Heavenly Sin Branch leader actually didn't have a good plan for him to be the commander of this mission. With these words, it was clear who would stand on Yao Nanxian's side, and who would choose to stay on the sidelines. The people of the Blue Dragon Society just needed to kill them. Actually, the number of people who would help Yao Nanxian was almost the same as Chu Xiu's estimation. The only one that Chu Xiu didn't expect was the Jinhua Temple's Zen master Heng Shan to have such a close relationship with Yao Nanxian that he was willing to stand up for him in the face of the Blue Dragon Society. However, fortunately Yao Nanxian and that Zen master Heng Shan were already old, so the real problem was the three Spirit Sword sect's external aura stage martial artists. The three of them were one of the four great sword leaders of the Spirit Sword sect. As the name implied, they were the top swordsmen of the Spirit Sword sect. Although this title was given by the Spirit Sword sect itself, it also proved the status of these three people in the Spirit Sword sect. As soon as the two sides began to fight, Yen Bugui directly faced two Spirit Sword sect's external aura stage martial artists, while Tang Ye faced Yao Nanxian and another Spirit Sword sect martial artist. Although Chu Xiu was a level 5 assassin, he was still in the internal aura stage. Therefore, he didn't have much confidence in fighting against the three Spirit Sword sect's external aura stage martial artists. However, with his current strength, Chu Xiu still had some confidence in dealing with an old monk like Zen Master Heng Shan. Zen Master Heng Shan's Jinhua Temple was relatively famous among the Buddhist temples in the Mount Tai County. Zen Master Heng Shan's reputation was also not small. He liked to guide the younger generation of disciples, and he was a fair person. If there was any competition between the surrounding forces of the martial arts world, he would always help to mediate, so that the two sides would not turn into a life-and-death fight. Looking at Chu Xiu, Zen Master Heng Shan said in a sinking voice, "Does the Blue Dragon Society really want to go to the extreme today?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not that our Blue Dragon Society wants to go to the extreme, but the employer who hired us wants to go to the extreme. Don't Buddhism pay attention to cause and effect the most? Yao Nanxian has been stained with cause and effect, so now it's time for him to pay it back. Isn't that reasonable?" Zen Master Heng Shan chanted the name of Buddha and said, "Since you believe in karma, do you know how many innocent people your Azure Dragon Society has killed as a knife in the hands of others? How much blood and karma have your hands been stained with? If you turn back now, you still have the chance to put down the butcher's knife." Chu Xiu pulled out the red sleeve blade in his hand and lightly said, "Zen Master, do you want to persuade me to put down the butcher's knife and turn back to the shore? Unfortunately, if I turn back, I will die. I put down the knife in my hand, but the person who wants to kill me will not put down the sword in his hand. In addition, I also want to give you a piece of advice. Do you know why the monks in the Subhuti monastery who practice ascetic meditation for dozens of years live longer? It's not because they are skilled in martial arts and Buddhist dharma, but because they don't like to meddle in other people's business." Zen Master Heng Shan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, an incomparably sharp glint burst out from his eyes. "The Buddhist sect can persuade people to put down the butcher's knife. Since you are so stubborn, then the Buddhist sect also has the wrath of the Vajra." As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling golden gang chi burst out from Zen Master Heng Shan's body. His loose monk robe fluttered and his momentum burst out fiercely. The wrath of the Vajra could suppress evil and subdue demons. Chapter 118. The Southern Buddhist sect cultivated Dharma, while the Northern Buddhist sect cultivated physique. Although Zen Master Heng Shan was not a disciple of the great Guangming Temple, it should be known that 99% of the Buddhist disciples in the Northern Buddhist sect cultivated physique refining techniques. Although Zen Master Heng Shan always had a benevolent look on his face, the moment he unleashed his power, it really had the power of a Vajra that could subdue demons. The Vajra gang chi coiled around Zen Master Heng Shan's body. When his fist landed, his right hand formed a fist seal like a pestle to subdue demons. Chu Xiu's red sleeve blade slashed onto his fist, but it produced a violent explosion of gang chi. There was only a white mark on Zen Master Heng Shan's fist, while Chu Xiu's body was involuntarily sent flying several feet away. Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. His hand, which was holding onto the blade, could not stop itself from trembling. This monk's strength was not just average. Additionally, he had cultivated himself to the point where he could use his body to fight against primordial weapons. So far, the only physical invulnerability expert that Chu Xiu had killed was Euhenian. However, at that time, Euhenian's strength was greatly reduced because he had been poisoned by the 3-bug 3-flower powder. Although the current Chu Xiu's strength had improved a lot compared to that time, he could only be suppressed in front of a famous physical invulnerability expert like Zen Master Heng Shan. The golden gang qi around Zen Master Heng Shan's body surged, and his figure came crashing down. An incomparably powerful punch landed with a loud bang, sealing off all escape routes around Chu Xiu. He formed a seal with both hands and slammed it down. Vajra seal. The power contained in this seal was extremely fierce and overbearing. The pale golden gang qi whizzed over, and Chu Xiu could feel the piercing sharpness of the gang qi from a few feet away. It was as if there was really a Buddhist Vajra suppressing demons and subduing demons in front of him. A sharp glint flashed in Chu Xiu's eyes. He struck out with the great violet sun palm, but at the same time, his palm was also condensed with an incomparably strong power of blood. Its density was even comparable to the gang qi of a martial artist of the outer invulnerability realm. Zen Master Heng Shan snorted coldly at the sight of the extremely dense evil blood qi that sent chills down one's spine. Evil demon. Just this powerful baleful blood qi alone was enough to prove that this kid had killed countless people. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to condense such a degree of baleful blood qi. As he thought of this, the Vajra seal in his hand shone brightly, and it descended, colliding with Chu Xiu's great violet sun palm. Instantly, a shocking shockwave erupted. With a loud bang, Chu Xiu's figure retreated several steps. The powerful inner force blasted into his body. If he had not mobilized all the true qi in his body to resist, this seal would have been enough to cripple his arm. However, Chu Xiu was not at ease at this moment. When the powerful force of the Vajra seal entered his body, it directly caused one of his arms to be drenched in blood. It even shook his internal organs, causing Chu Xiu to spit out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. On the other hand, Zen Master Heng Shan did not take the opportunity to attack. He looked at the purple mark on his palm and his expression changed slightly. What kind of evil technique is this? At this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan could clearly feel an incomparably scorching force spreading from the meridians in his hands to the rest of his body. The burning pain was unbearable, and he had no choice but to use all the true qi in his body to suppress it. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "My martial arts does not distinguish between good and evil. It's fine as long as it can kill." As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu took the initiative to attack. The knife in his hand was like a continuous drizzle, slashing at Zen Master Heng Shan with murderous intent and crimson. He actually forced Zen Master Heng Shan to take the initiative to defend, and was suppressed by him. When the surrounding people saw the power of Chu Xiu's attack, their expressions also changed slightly. The Longhu list had already spread throughout the pugilistic world, and everyone knew that a young assassin had actually appeared in the Heavenly Sin branch. Previously, some of them were still discussing whether this person was ranked in the top 20 when he just stepped into the Longhu list, and even pushed by Wuji from the northern fluttering snow city down. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? However, after seeing him fight with Zen Master Heng Shan today, everyone knew that Chu Xiu's ranking on the Longhu list was not high, but rather low. It was not unheard of for an internal invulnerability expert to defeat a physical invulnerability expert, or even kill a physical invulnerability expert. However, it also depended on the target. Zen Master Heng Shan, who was considered famous in the pugilistic world of East Yen, was actually suppressed by an internal invulnerability realm martial artist. This was a little too exaggerated. Being in the middle of Chu Xiu's knife, Zen Master Heng Shan's face was gloomy. At this moment, he finally understood why this person in front of him could become a level 5 assassin of the Blue Dragon Society at the internal invulnerability realm. He was indeed very difficult to deal with. When the other party attacked, the explosive power was shocking. Even if he was at his peak, he still had to be cautious. What was more troublesome was the evil martial arts that the other party had used previously. The scorching power was constantly eroding his meridians, causing Zen Master Heng Shan to be unable to unleash his greatest power, and was even suppressed by the other party. Having figured this out, Zen Master Heng Shan decided not to suppress the power of the heaven-extinguishing and earth-destroying hand of the great purple Yang Sunday, changing the stance of his fists. Golden gang qi shone like Buddha's light, condensing on his fists and striking at Chu Xiu. Zen Master Heng Shan cultivated the great Vajra exorcism fist. The fist's momentum was incomparably fierce, and the power that erupted in this instant completely disrupted Chu Xiu's knife momentum. The great Vajra exorcism fist, which was shining with golden gang qi, passed through the endless blood-colored knife aura, and blasted at Chu Xiu's chest. At that moment, Chu Xiu's eyes suddenly flashed with a black color. It was pure black, the black that belonged to hell. Even the crimson blade of the red sleeve knife had been stained with a misty black aura. When the knife slashed down, one would fall into the endless hell. 3 cuts of Avicii. This terrifying saber strike directly shattered Zen Master Heng Shan's protective upstanding qi. Sensing the astonishing chill, Zen Master Heng Shan's fist posture changed. His hands turned into palms and directly caught the saber strike. It was as if he was putting his palms together to perform a Buddhist ritual, directly catching Chu Xiu's saber strike between his hands. Suppress. An angry roar came suddenly. The golden gang qi in Zen Master Heng Shan's hands surged, and the black aura on the red sleeve knife was shaken away. The voice was even more like a great bell, resounding in Chu Xiu's mind, making him feel dizzy and like vomiting blood. Lion's Roar Tremor Formula. In the past, Zen Master Heng Shan once went to the Great Light Temple to talk about Zen and Tao. He learned the tremor character formula of the Lion's Roar from the Great Light Temple. If an ordinary person was shaken by the Lion's Roar, their eardrums would be shattered, their 7 orifices would bleed, and they would even be completely stunned. Seeing that Chu Xiu had temporarily lost his consciousness, Zen Master Heng Shan directly swung the red sleeve knife in his hand to the side, and his palm that was shining with a golden glow was aimed at Chu Xiu's heart. The Great Light Temple's 9 transformation Lion's Roar had a total of 9 transformations. Although Zen Master Heng Shan had only been taught a little bit of it, its power was indeed very extraordinary. However, because Chu Xiu had cultivated the soul-shifting technique of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth, his own mental strength was also extremely strong. Under the power of the tremor character formula of the Lion's Roar, he only lost his consciousness for a moment before he completely regained his consciousness. Facing Zen Master Heng Shan's palm, Chu Xiu once again used the great violet sun hand of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth to counter it. When the palm landed, Chu Xiu was directly blasted away. His left arm was twisted and looked to be broken. However, at this moment, Zen Master Heng Shan's expression suddenly changed. His face turned pale, and he could not help but let out a muffled groan as cold sweat flowed down his forehead. The power of the great violet sun hand of extinguishing heaven and destroying earth was originally not that easy to suppress and expel. He could suppress the power of 1 layer of the purple sun demonic flame, but what about 2 layers? Even with his cultivation, he could not endure the powerful power that burned his meridians and internal organs, and he let out a muffled groan. At this moment, the surrounding people saw that Chu Xiu could actually fight with Zen Master Heng Shan to such an extent, and they were also shocked. Although this Chu Xiu was known as an internal invulnerability expert, in reality, he already had the strength to fight against a physical invulnerability expert. Only a physical invulnerability expert like Zen Master Heng Shan, who was not weak, could injure him to such an extent. In the end, he also suffered internal injuries. If it were an ordinary physical invulnerability expert, he probably would not be able to gain any advantage in front of this Chu Xiu. Xiang Weiyang, who was standing at the side, looked at Chu Xiu with an even more horrified gaze. He was also a saber user, and the terrifying saber strike by Chu Xiu just now left a deep impression on him. That hatred that seemed to have emerged from hell was the pinnacle of negative emotions in the world. It was a standard demonic saber, the type that hurt others while hurting oneself. In the end, this person was still able to maintain his consciousness after using this saber. It was either because he had a secret treasure on him, or because of Chu Xiu's shocking willpower. At this moment in the field, black gas lingered in Chu Xiu's eyes. Usually, when he used the 3 blades of Avicii, he would usually begin to suppress the backlash of the saber intent after using it once. However, at this time, Chu Xiu did not suppress the backlash. Instead, the black gas in his eyes became thicker. The power from the Avicii hell coiled around the blade of Chu Xiu, and even along the blade, it wrapped around his intact right arm. At this moment, the aura on Chu Xiu's body was like that of a devil from hell. Even his eyes had become extremely cold, and there were no longer any emotions that a human should have. When this terrifying saber fell, it was as if it had been slashed out from hell, causing Zen Master Heng Shan to suddenly widen his eyes. As a member of the Buddhist sect, when he was young, he had killed many demonic evildoers to enforce justice on behalf of heaven. However, as he gradually grew older, he needed to nourish his qi and blood to preserve his strength, which was why he did not act as frequently as he did when he was young. However, Chu Xiu's saber in front of him showed him what a real demonic saber was. He cultivated the great Vajra subduing demon fist. Vajra could subdue demons, but it could not subdue the second saber from the Avicii hell. Open! Zen Master Heng Shan shouted angrily. He could not care less about suppressing the purple sun devil flame that was burning his meridians in his body. His hands formed a seal and endless golden gang energy erupted. Like a demon-subduing pestle, it suddenly smashed down on Chu Xiu's saber. Vajra subduing demons, overcoming adversity to become Buddha. The golden gang energy collided with the black blade, but what erupted was a bloody desolation. The gang energy exploded, and the blade fell to the ground. Zen Master Heng Shan was directly cut in half by Chu Xiu's saber from top to bottom. Chapter 119. The power of the Devil Saber was beyond everyone's expectation. No one expected that Zen Master Heng Shan of Jingguang Temple, who was considered famous in East Yen, would die in the hands of an inner gang realm martial artist. And it was ironic. Zen Master Heng Shan spent half his life killing demons, but in the end he died under such a strange demonic blade. He was cut into two by the second blade of the Avicii Dao 3 blades. Blood and internal organs covered the ground. This could not be considered a complete corpse. At this moment, Chu Xiu's appearance was even more frightening. Black fog was wrapped around his blade, his hand, and his eyes. Chu Xiu's hand that was holding the blade was trembling non-stop. If anyone were to look at Chu Xiu's eyes now, they would only see an ice-cold darkness like the abyss of hell, making people shudder. Now that Chu Xiu was wearing a mask, no one noticed. But in fact, Chu Xiu's face was already distorted beyond belief. The backlash of the first blade of the Avicii Dao 3 blades could be easily suppressed by Chu Xiu's current strength. But the backlash of the second blade was more than twice as strong as the first blade. With Chu Xiu's current strength, he had to use his strongest willpower to coordinate with the glazed golden thread goose power to dissipate the black gas in his eyes. Even the black gas on his red sleeve blade also dissipated. After completely suppressing the backlash of the Avicii Dao 3 blades, Chu Xiu heaved a sigh of relief. Using 2 blades consecutively was already Chu Xiu's limit. Now, if Chu Xiu dared to use the third blade and use the complete Avicii Dao 3 blades, even the glazed golden thread gu would not be able to save Chu Xiu. While Chu Xiu was exchanging blows with Zen Master Heng Shan, Yanbu Gui and Tangya had also achieved some results. Previously, Chu Xiu had asked Fire Slave who was stronger, Yanbu Gui or Tangya. At that time, the Fire Slave had said that Yanbu Gui should be slightly stronger, but he could not figure out Tangya's background. He always felt that Tangya was hiding something, and what he had shown now was not his true strength. But when it came to Yanbu Gui, everyone in the Heavenly Sin branch knew how crazy he could be when he fought, even though he seemed to be a man of few words. Yanbu Gui's nickname was Broken Sword. He usually carried a heavy sword on his back which was wrapped in coarse cloth. Judging from its shape, it should be more complete. But now that Yanbu Gui had unsheathed his heavy sword, Chu Xiu realized that his sword was really a broken sword. There were obvious cracks on the heavy sword, but it seemed to have been repaired later. However, a broken sword was a broken sword, it could not be compared with a fully formed weapon. Therefore, it could be considered as a broken sword. Yanbu Gui's sword technique was very strange. In fact, from Chu Xiu's point of view, it couldn't even be called a sword technique. The heavy sword in his hand was simply like a heavy hammer, an incomparably powerful heavy weapon. On top of that, the inner force that he cultivated was incomparably mystical. He could actually make the heavy sword in his hand become even more powerful and heavy. When he swung his sword over, other than the martial monks of the Great Light Temple who had incomparably great strength, there were almost no ordinary warriors who could block his sword. Therefore, when Chu Xiu was fighting with Zen Master Heng Shan, Yanbu Gui had already used his sword aura to blow a martial artist away. Then he seized the opportunity and swung his huge sword down. That's right, it was not a slash but a slap. The crowd could only hear a loud explosion, and in an instant, a mist of blood swirled in the air. One of the spirit sword sect's martial artists was actually directly smashed into a meat paste by his heavy sword, completely out of shape. This scene was much more terrifying than Chu Xiu chopping someone into two. Not to mention these martial artists, even the other Blue Dragon Society assassins had a look of awe and fear on their faces. The missions that Yanbu Gui carried out were one after another, and none of them were able to leave a complete corpse. There were even times when the employer required the target's head. At that time, Yanbu Gui would only pay a little attention and smack the target's body into meat paste, before bringing the head to the employer. Therefore, compared to Yen Bugui, although Chu Xiu was ruthless, he was not as vicious as Yen Bugui. While Yen Bugui had a harvest, Tang Ye's side was not bad either. To be honest, even Chu Xiu could not understand Tang Ye's martial arts. Tang Ye's footwork was very fast and extremely flexible. The other party must have cultivated some kind of speed footwork. Moreover, the weapon that he used was the short knife that Chu Xiu used before. It was not even as long as an arm, and it was exceptionally sinister and ruthless. He didn't use any powerful martial arts, but Tang Ye was proficient in many methods, including fist, palm, finger, and so on. However, they were not too strong. When he fought against Yao Nanqian and that spirit sword sect's martial artist, Tang Ye was always slippery. Although it seemed dangerous to fight one against two, he always managed to escape at the most critical moment, and while at the same time, launched a sneak attack on these two people. His moves were steady, accurate, and ruthless. Therefore, in the end, Yao Nanqian and that spirit sword sect's disciple were already covered with injuries. On the other hand, Tang Ye basically had no injuries. And just now, when Yao Nanqian saw Zen Master Heng Shan being chopped into two by Chu Xiu's knife, he could not help but cry out in grief, "Monk!" He and Zen Master Heng Shan have been friends for decades, and the two of them could be said to be friends through life and death. Otherwise, Zen Master Heng Shan would not have come to witness his washing of hands in a golden basin ceremony. As a result, because of him, Zen Master Heng Shan died here. This made Yao Nanqian unable to help but feel sad. His mind was affected, and even his sword momentum was a bit messed up. At this time, Tang Ye's eyes revealed a touch of thick murderous intention. His hand moved, and two strange hidden weapons have already broken through the air. The people present could only hear the sound of breaking through the air, but they didn't even see what those hidden weapons looked like. Yao Nanqian and the other spirit sword sect's disciples subconsciously raised their swords to resist. After two clanging sounds, the two of them simultaneously retreated. However, at this time, Tang Ye's figure directly arrived in front of Yao Nanqian. His hands were like afterimages and his fingers were fierce and swift. The sky was filled with finger shadows along with the explosion of the aura shield, which blasted Yao Nanqian back step by step and directly broke the opponent's protective true qi. Moreover, no one knew when, but the knife in his hand had once again appeared in his hand. Like a maggot attached to a bone, he slashed at Yao Nanqian's neck. Suddenly, a line of blood appeared, and his figure immediately retreated to meet the other spirit sword sect's martial artist. Yao Nanqian couldn't believe it as he covered his throat. Blood continued to spurt out, and his consciousness gradually disappeared along with the flow of blood. He wanted to quit Jianghu, but Yao Nanqian never thought that the day he quit Jianghu would be the day of his death. Even before his death, he couldn't figure out who wanted to kill him. Although he died in the hands of the Blue Dragon Society, the Blue Dragon Society was just a sword to kill him. The person who really wanted to kill him had always been hiding behind the scenes. Besides the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, even Chu Xiu and the others didn't know about it. This Yao Nanqian was still a muddle-headed ghost until his death. Chu Xiu looked at Yao Nanqian's body in silence. Yao Nanqian's death meant that the task was already half completed. He didn't need to care about the other onlookers. When Yao Nanqian was still alive, they didn't stand up for him, so after his death, they would definitely not stand up for him. Speaking of which, Yao Nanqian's death was somewhat unjust. Chu Xiu dared to guarantee that if he didn't intend to quit Jianghu and stayed in the Spirit Sword sect as the Great Elder, absolutely no one would dare to kill him. The person who asked the Blue Dragon Society to kill Yao Nanqian certainly had a life and death enmity with Yao Nanqian, but why didn't he do it earlier? Either his strength was not enough or his financial resources were not enough. Asking the Blue Dragon Society to kill an old guy who was about to retire and killing an elder of the Spirit Sword sect in the Eastern Yan dynasty were two completely different concepts. The former was a level 6 task, so Chu Xiu and the others could solve it without the Heavenly Sin Branch leader's help. The tea cools when the person is gone. How many people would be willing to risk their lives to help an old guy who was about to retire from Jianghu? There were so many martial artists present, but in the end, less than 1/10 of them came forward. If it was the latter, then the Blue Dragon Society would have to face the entire Spirit Sword sect. Although the relationship between the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Lin Feiyu, and Yao Nanqian didn't seem to be very good, no matter how bad it was, Yao Nanqian was still a disciple of the Spirit Sword sect, so Lin Feiyu couldn't just watch his own elder be killed in front of him. Moreover, if he wanted to deal with the entire Spirit Sword sect, even the Heavenly Sin Branch leader would have a hard time. It was said that the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Small Sword Lin Feiyu, was only one step away from reaching the realm of one with the heaven, which was not much worse than the heavenly sin branch leader. Moreover, the Spirit Sword sect still had the array formation and other things left behind by its ancestors. It was still unknown whether the entire heavenly sin branch leader could destroy the Spirit Sword sect. Even if Yao Nanxian's enemy could come up with such terrifying financial resources, the heavenly sin branch leader might not necessarily accept this task. Therefore, Yao Nanxian's so-called withdrawal from Jianghu was actually courting death. He wanted to settle his own grievances, but the problem was that other people didn't want to settle it. At this time, Chu Xiu didn't intervene in the fight because the overall situation was already decided. After Tang Ye and Yan Bugue dealt with all of their opponents, the entire Yao family village's martial artists were almost massacred by them. The remaining people had already fled, and the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were too lazy to chase after them. Although the number of Yao family village's martial artists was more than 10 times that of the Blue Dragon Society's assassins, compared to these Blue Dragon Society's assassins, the Yao family village's disciples were obviously not worth mentioning. It was almost a one-sided massacre. Seeing that the task had been completed, Chu Xiu waved his hand. The people of the Blue Dragon Society immediately turned around and left. No one dared to stop them. Looking at the Yao family village that was covered in blood, the people present suddenly looked at each other in dismay. This was the first time that someone had tried to wash their hands in a golden basin and ended up destroying their own family. At this time, everyone couldn't help but think of the words that Chu Xiu said. The world is like the tide and people are like the water. Only a few people in Jianghu can return. It was easy to step into this Jianghu, but it was not so easy to leave. Some of the people present had even seen how impressive Yao Nanxian's golden basin washing ceremony was and wondered if they should do the same when they were old. However, after seeing this scene, they immediately dispelled that idea. Chapter 120. The news of the annihilation of the Yao village spread far and wide. It even caused quite a stir in the entire East Yen. One reason was that Yao Nanxian had already caused quite a stir when he prepared to wash his hands in the golden basin. Now, his entire family was annihilated during his own washing ceremony. This series of events left those who knew of it unable to react in time. Moreover, the annihilation of the Yao village allowed the Blue Dragon Society to reappear in the eyes of the people of the East Yen. When the Heavenly Sin branch was annihilated, the Blue Dragon Society almost disappeared from the East Yen. Even though the Blue Dragon Society later sent a new Heavenly Sin branch leader, the Blue Dragon Society only fought on a small scale most of the time and did not cause too much of a stir. The annihilation of the Yao village was the first time the Blue Dragon Society took action on a large scale. It also made everyone realize that there was another vicious snake in the East Yen martial arts world. At the same time, the names of the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society who participated in the annihilation also spread. However, the one in the limelight was Chu Xiu. Actually, based on their battle records, Tang Ye and Yan Bugue had killed more people than Chu Xiu. The two of them had fought against two opponents at the physical invulnerability realm at the same time, and had easily dealt with two opponents at the physical invulnerability realm. Especially Tang Ye, Yao Nanxian had died at his hands. However, Chu Xiu was a person on the Longhu leaderboard. Previously, there were people who said that it was unfair for Chu Xiu to be ranked 18th on the leaderboard and that Wind Sweeping Tower must have made some secret deal to put him on the leaderboard. However, now that Chu Xiu showed his strength and killed Zen Master Heng Shan, a veteran physical invulnerability expert, in front of everyone, no one said that there was something wrong with the Wind Sweeping Tower's leaderboard anymore. At this time, in a mountain forest at the border of Mount Tai County and Forest County, countless military camps were located on the mountainside. Their flags fluttered in the wind. This small mountain was the camp of the Mountain Garrison Army. After Xiang Weiyang returned from Yao Clan village, he went straight back to the barracks. Along the way, when the soldiers saw him, they would respectfully greet him and call him Commandant Xiang. The mountain-subduing army had just begun to guard the east of Yen. General Yin Luohua even requested that they come to the mountain forest to train every day. In the end, they simply moved the entire military camp to the mountain. Xiang Weiyang opened the main tent and walked in. There was only a middle-aged man wearing black tiger armor inside, reading a book. The middle-aged man looked very refined and had a gentle temperament. If it weren't for the armor he was wearing, one would think that he was just a scholar and not a murderous general. This person was the mountain-subduing army's general, Roaring Tiger Yin Luohua. Although Yin Luohua looked like a Confucian scholar, he was actually a vicious and merciless person. Just look at his nickname Tiger Tiger. What was poison? Poison was a legendary poisonous bird. Every feather on its body was extremely poisonous. Yin Luohua was called Tiger Tiger because he was vicious and decisive. He was like a ferocious tiger coming down the mountain, unstoppable. With these two characteristics combined, Yin Luohua was very famous in the Northern Yan army. Seeing Xiang Weiyang come in, Yin Luohua asked, "Is the matter with Yao clan village over?" Xiang Weiyang chuckled, "It's over. That Yao Nanqian died a miserable death." Yin Luohua was surprised. Yao Nanqian died? What happened? After Xiang Weiyang told him everything, Yin Luohua pondered for a while and finally said in a deep voice, "A storm is brewing. The east of Yan, or should I say the northern Yan pugilistic world, is not going to be peaceful soon." Xiang Weiyang hesitated. "General, it can't be, right? The assassins of the Blue Dragon Society have killed more than one family over the years. With the strength of a heavenly sin branch, it shouldn't be able to affect the entire East Yan pugilistic world." Yin Luohua shook his head. "This time the heavenly sin branch is just a prelude. It means that the heavenly sin branch that was destroyed by the big sects 3 years ago has once again appeared in the world. 3 years ago the heavenly sin branch was destroyed not because they killed someone they shouldn't have, but because they took something they shouldn't have. That's why the entire heavenly sin branch was killed. In fact, these big sects are a bit sensitive. Not only did they take back the things they shouldn't have, but they even joined forces to destroy a Blue Dragon Society branch. One has to know that the entire Blue Dragon Society only has 36 Heavenly Dipper branches. The current leader of the Blue Dragon Society, Crescent Green Dragon, Wuxia Nan, is famous for his bad temper. His mood is unpredictable and he's basically a madman. What they did was equivalent to slapping him in the face several times. How could he not fight them to the death? I didn't see that battle either. Anyway, the aftermath of that year hasn't dissipated yet. In the end, the Blue Dragon Society sent such a troublemaker, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. If I'm not wrong, he won't be able to endure it for long and will jump out to cause trouble. Now that I look at it, it seems like I'm right." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "Do you know the current Heavenly Sin Branch leader of the Blue Dragon Society?" "Kind of. We've had some dealings." Yin Luohua said in a deep voice, "This Heavenly Sin Branch leader used to be an assassin at the headquarters of the Blue Dragon Society. He's very strong and even I don't have the confidence to win against him. However, as a person I can only say that he has great ambitions but little talent. He's a bit too arrogant. Back then, when the Heavenly Sin Branch was completely wiped out, the most suitable thing to do was to calmly develop. However, this person doesn't have a patient personality. With his strength, if the Heavenly Sin Branch starts to improve, he'll definitely make some big moves. Now that you've seen it, accepting the mission from the Yao clan is the first step." Xiang Weiyang laughed coldly and said, "In any case, no matter what, let them kill. This group of people from the pugilistic world is killing here. Isn't it better for us to just watch from the sidelines?" Yin Luohua said in a deep voice, "That's what I thought before. However, with the current situation of the imperial court, I'm afraid we can't just watch from the sidelines. No matter what, we have to participate." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "What's the imperial court doing?" Yin Luohua looked at Xiang Weiyang and suddenly said in a low voice, "You should know the situation of our northern Yan in the past. Not only was we suppressed by Eastern Qi, but we were also suppressed by West Chu. Fortunately, the current emperor is a great strategist, and he united the northern Yan martial world to eliminate the 36 northern bandits, and even suppress Eastern Qi. However, in recent years, these people from the pugilistic world have become more and more outrageous. They've caused too much trouble. Even in the northern floating snow city, the words of our northern Yan imperial court are not as effective as the words of the northern floating snow city. It doesn't matter if they claim to be the meritorious subjects of Yan kingdom, or if it's purely for their own benefit, we northern Yan have to intervene. Otherwise, who in this world would take the imperial court seriously?" Xiang Weiyang's heart trembled when he heard this and he said, "General, is this the order of His Majesty?" Yin Luohua said faintly, "To be precise, this is the order of the imperial court, but you don't have to be nervous. Right now the entire northern Yan pugilistic world is still peaceful, and it's not the time to make a move yet. It's just that a storm is brewing and the rain hasn't fallen yet. You should cultivate to the realm of 3 flowers at one's prominence as soon as possible. After I promote you to deputy general, I will go to the capital. I don't know who the new general of the mountain subduing army will be, but with your qualifications in the mountain subduing army, whoever takes over the mountain subduing army will use you." Xiang Weiyang said in surprise, "General, you're going to be transferred back to the capital?" Yin Luohua nodded and said, "I'm about to condense the true martial elixir and step into the third realm of spirit condensation. When the time comes, I will probably go to the 5 armies of the state as a deputy general." The real elites of the Yen kingdom were all in the 5 armies of the state. Although Yin Luohua was now the general of the mountain-subduing army, being promoted to deputy general seemed to lower his status, but it was actually a promotion. Xiang Weiyang's eyes showed a touch of joy. He cupped his hands and said, "Congratulations, General." He was Yin Luohua's confidant. Now that his master's strength had gone a step further, he naturally felt honored. Yin Luohua patted him on the shoulder and said, "Now that you have the merit, the only thing you lack is strength. The sooner you reach the realm of 3 flowers and 5 qi, the better I can find a position for you in the 5 armies of the state." "Thank you, General." Inside the Spirit Sword sect, a middle-aged man in his 40s, dressed in blue with a long sword across his knees, sat cross-legged in front of a waterfall, listening to a martial artist report about the Yao family village. This person was the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, Frost Moon Sword Lin Feiyu. After listening to the disciple's report, Lin Feiyu just nodded and closed his eyes. Seeing that the sect leader didn't speak, the disciple behind him hesitated for a long time before saying, "Sect leader, how should we deal with this matter?" Lin Feiyu opened his eyes and asked, "Why should we deal with it?" That disciple subconsciously said, "Elder Yao is, after all, an elder of our Spirit Sword sect. Moreover, 3 of our physical invulnerability martial uncles died, how could our Spirit Sword sect not respond?" Lin Feiyu took a deep look at that disciple and then lightly said, "Remember, from the moment Yao Nanqian decided to retire from Jianghu, he was no longer a member of our Spirit Sword sect. As for those 3 idiots, they fought to the death for a guy who was about to retire from Jianghu, and finally lost their lives in the Yao family village. Do you want our Spirit Sword sect to avenge them? Moreover, even if our Spirit Sword sect wants to avenge them, who should we look for? Who hired the Blue Dragon Society to kill Yao Nanqian? Even Yao Nanqian himself didn't know. Look for the Blue Dragon Society for revenge? Everyone knows that the Blue Dragon Society is just a sword in someone else's hand. Moreover, the Blue Dragon Society's whereabouts are hidden, and the strength of the Heavenly Sin Division is stronger than our Spirit Sword sect. How could we go to the Blue Dragon Society's door to look for trouble? From now on this matter is over. I don't want to hear anyone in the sect discussing this matter, do you understand?" Upon hearing this, that disciple's heart suddenly turned cold and he nodded again and again. Only then did he realize that there seemed to be a rumor in the sect that when Elder Yao was young, he seemed to have suppressed the sect leader. Therefore, when the sect leader took the position, Elder Yao no longer held any power. In the end, he even had to retire from Jianghu. Previously he thought that this was just a rumor, but now it seemed like it was true. Chapter 121. The northern Yin country was a large wasteland. Its area was even larger than 7 or 8 counties. However, because of its desolate land and harsh climate, it was sparsely populated. Thus, the northern Yin imperial court did not set up a county there. However, in this slightly desolate northern Yin country, there were several great forces that were listed in the Jianghu Song by wind-sweeping building. For example, in the northernmost part of the northern Yin country, the area where the snow never melted, belonged to the northern floating snow city. Although there was not much snow in the northwest, the weather was dry and desolate. A giant straight peak stood in the northwest wasteland. This was the Great Light Peak, where the Great Light Temple of the Northern Buddhist sect was located. Under the jurisdiction of the Great Light Temple were the 3 great meditation halls and 6 great martial academies, all of which were located above the Great Light Temple. At this time, in the Jingang Martial Academy, one of the 6 great martial academies, a 40-years-old tall monk looked at the information written on the paper. His eyes showed a touch of anger. After throwing the letter, the monk was about to go out, but he was stopped by an old monk in the meditation room. "Mingchen, where are you going?" Mingchen coldly said, "Master, when senior brother Hengshan was helping Spirit Sword sect's abbot Yao Nanqian wash his hands in the Golden Basin ceremony, he was brutally killed by those villains of the Azure Dragon Society. How could I just ignore it?" In the entire northern Yen country, almost all of the Buddhist temples respected the Great Light Temple. Therefore, in terms of seniority, Zen Master Hengshan and this Mingchen were of the same generation. Because Zen Master Hengshan was older, he was respectfully called senior brother by Mingchen. Moreover, the relationship between these two people was indeed good, although there was a big gap between their identities. One was the martial monk instructor of the Jingang Martial School, responsible for teaching the young monks of the Jingang Martial School, while the other was the abbot of a small northern Yen temple. In the past, Zen master Heng Shan was invited to the Great Light Temple to discuss Zen. Of course, with his identity and Buddhist cultivation, he was not qualified to discuss Zen with the important people of the Great Light Temple. The ones who received him were the disciples of the 3 great meditation halls and the 6 great martial academies. At that time, the one who received Zen master Heng Shan was this Mingchen. It was also because of that time that the two of them became good friends. Although the two of them were dozens of years apart, they had become good friends despite the difference in age. When Mingchen left the Great Light Temple, he would often visit the Jinhua Temple. For the past 2 years, he had been in seclusion in the Great Light Temple. He did not expect that the moment he came out of seclusion, he would receive news of Zen master Heng Shan's death. The old monk shook his head and said, "Once you enter the pugilistic world, you will be tainted with karma. This is Heng Shan's karma, he can't blame others. You treated Heng Shan as a good friend, and he also treated Yao Nanqian as a good friend, which is why he was killed. But the key point is that we don't even know who hired the Blue Dragon Society. Who are you going to take revenge on?" Mingchen said coldly, "Yao Nanqian was killed because of his own grudges. I don't care who the people who want to avenge him find. I only know that it was the Blue Dragon Society who killed senior brother Heng Shan. I naturally have to seek revenge from the Blue Dragon Society, from the blood demon Chu Xiu." The old monk shook his head and said, "Mingchen, you have reached a critical moment in cultivating the Furious Diamond Heart Sutra. Any small matter in the outside world will incite the anger in your heart. The Furious Diamond Eyes is to suppress evil and kill demons. Killing one person to save 10, this is the Diamond Heart technique, the heart of a bodhisattva. Your heart is filled with anger and murderous intent. If I ask you to kill again, I'm afraid you will be completely overwhelmed by anger. You will be filled with resentment, which will lead to the birth of a heart demon. So this time you can't go." "But Master," the old monk said solemnly, "there are no buts. Moreover, the heavenly sin branch is very sensitive now. The abbot and the hall masters have already ordered that we are not allowed to have any conflict with the Blue Dragon Society. 3 years ago, the head of the Blue Dragon Society, Bu Tiannan, came to provoke the Great Light Temple. He fought with the hall master of the Daredevil Zen Hall, the 9 Wonders Dragon Tree, Martial Uncle Shuyun, and was forced to retreat by the abbot. However, that Bu Tiannan is crazy and temperamental. If the Blue Dragon Society really wants to fight the Great Light Temple to the death, how many disciples of the Great Light Temple will die if the assassins of the 36 Big Dipper divisions all target the Great Light Temple? The Northern Yen pugilistic world is chaotic enough. The Great Light Temple is in the Northern Light Peak and doesn't want to interfere with the chaos of the pugilistic world. We definitely can't take the initiative to cause trouble. If the Blue Dragon Society touched the disciples of the Great Light Temple, then the Great Light Temple doesn't mind killing the Heavenly Sin branch again. However, if you cause the Great Light Temple and the Blue Dragon Society to form an irreconcilable enmity because of your personal grudges, can you bear the consequences?" Mingchen broke out in a cold sweat after hearing his master's words. He was so angry just now that he didn't think too much about it. The old monk sighed and said, "All right, go back to your cultivation." Mingchen, among the disciples of the Vajra institution, your advancement in strength is not the strongest. However, you are the one who works the hardest in your daily cultivation and has the strongest willpower. When you can completely control your emotions, then your Furious Vajra Heart Sutra will be considered complete. "Yes, Master." Mingchen respectfully bowed to the old monk, but he didn't dare to bring up the matter of seeking revenge from the Blue Dragon Society again. Of course, he also suppressed this hatred in the bottom of his heart. The Furious Vajra was not to kill but to save people. However, if he couldn't even take revenge for his good friend, then his Furious Vajra would be too aggrieved. Due to the destruction of the Yao village and the death of Yao Nanqian, the entire martial arts world in the east of Yen became tense. This was something that Chu Xiu and the other assassins of the Blue Dragon Society didn't notice. After the destruction of the Yao village, the reward for the mission was distributed. Chu Xiu felt that he had suffered a loss. The reward for a 6th-level mission was naturally very generous, but the problem was how many people would get a share of the reward. Even if it was according to the contribution, Chu Xiu could only be ranked above average. After all, Yen Bugui and Tang Ye had killed 2 physical invulnerability experts. Moreover, there were so many assassins participating in the mission. You split some and he split some. In the end, the reward for each person wasn't much. At least, Chu Xiu had spent so much effort to kill a physical invulnerability expert, but the reward he received was less than the reward he received for completing the lowest level 5th level mission alone. However, this battle brought many benefits to Chu Xiu. At the very least, Chu Xiu could confirm that he already had the strength to kill a physical invulnerability expert alone. Of course, the process was also more dangerous. Although Zen Master Heng Shan was already old, and his qi and blood had begun to decline, he had dominated the martial arts world in the east of Yen in his early years. He had rich combat experience, and the martial arts techniques he had mastered were also very strong. He had even forced Chu Xiu to use the second move of the 3 cuts of Avicii, which he still couldn't fully control. With Chu Xiu's current strength, if his opponent was at the level of Yuhenian, it would probably be much easier to deal with him. During this period of time, Chu Xiu didn't stay idle. He continued to accept missions, cultivate and accept more missions. Moreover, after the Yao Village incident, Chu Xiu could be said to be the most famous assassin in the Heavenly Sin branch. There were even many missions that were specifically for Chu Xiu to do. At this time, Chu Xiu finally understood what the Ghost Hand King meant when he said that assassins also needed fame. The commission for these kinds of missions that designated assassins to carry out was extremely generous. If the employer wanted to designate Chu Xiu to do it, they just needed to pay more. As long as the commission was high, even the Heavenly Sin branch leader could do it himself. Therefore, now Chu Xiu only picked those missions that were specifically designated for him to complete. Once he carried out such a mission, the reward was 30% higher than ordinary missions. During the free time of carrying out missions, Chu Xiu also went to Old Huang's place to see if there was any progress on his side. Pushing open the door of Old Huang's courtyard, a sharp cold light flashed in front of Chu Xiu's eyes. 2 flying knives directly stabbed at him at an astonishing speed. However, no matter how fast the flying knives were, they were not as fast as Chu Xiu's knife. He unsheathed the red sleeve saber in his hand and shattered the flying dagger in front of him. Old man Huang hurriedly ran out and saw Chu Xiu in front of him. He could not help but smile awkwardly and said, "This old man did not know that official Chu had come. Please forgive me." Chu Xiu looked at the flying dagger on the ground and asked in surprise, "Did you set this up?" Old man Huang smiled bitterly and said, "This old man is a cripple now and is already unable to set up a complete array formation. I also don't have the money to hire martial artists with superb strength to protect me. Therefore, I can only think of a way to temporarily combine the array formation with the mechanical concealed weapons. Using the power of the array formation to automatically activate the concealed weapons, it can also be considered as a small protective item. Otherwise, if I encounter bandits or something, I won't even have the strength to fight back." As he spoke, Old Huang glanced at the 2 flying knives on the ground with some heartache. The materials of these 2 flying knives had reached the 3rd transition. In the end, they were chopped in half by Chu Xiu's saber. He felt his heart ache. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "I came to look for you for no other reason. I just want to see how the restoration of the cultivation transmission jade slip is going." Old man Huang nodded and said, "The restoration is going well. In less than a month, official Chu can come and get the item." Moreover, this old man also discovered some interesting things. This cultivation jade slip contains a Buddhist martial art. "Master Chu, you must be careful when you practice it." Old man Huang's words were really for Chu Xiu's own good. He already knew Chu Xiu's identity. Blood Demon Chu Xiu, a rising star of the younger generation in the East Yen pugilistic world. He was the most famous assassin in the Heavenly Sin branch. Needless to say, he definitely cultivated demonic techniques. Everyone in the pugilistic world knew that Buddhist cultivation methods and demonic cultivation methods restrained each other. If Chu Xiu were to first cultivate demonic cultivation methods before cultivating Buddhist cultivation methods, it would be easy for something to go wrong. He might even suffer from qi deviation or something like that. Actually, Chu Xiu suffering from qi deviation had nothing to do with him. However, he was the one who restored the cultivation transmission jade slip. If Chu Xiu made a mistake in his own cultivation and thought that he had done something to the cultivation transmission jade slip while repairing it, he would deliberately harm him. Or if his own skills were not good enough, causing problems in the cultivation transmission jade slip, and in the end he would kill him in a rage. Old man Huang would be the one who would be wronged. Therefore, Old man Huang explained the matter first. Cultivation techniques could not be cultivated casually. Don't look for me if something happens in the future. Chapter 122. When Chu Xiu heard Old Man Huang say that the cultivation method in the cultivation transmission jade slip was actually a Buddhist cultivation method, he was really a little surprised. Because the cultivation techniques of the Taoist and Buddhist lineages were relatively complete, there were relatively few inheritances in the outside world. When the Zhang family was at its peak, it actually had nothing to do with Buddhism, so this jade slip should have been accidentally obtained by them. However, because of some conflict or other reasons when they separated from the family, it was finally broken into two halves, with each side holding one half. As for Old Man Huang's worry that Chu Xiu would make a mistake while cultivating both the demonic and Buddhist techniques at the same time, Chu Xiu was not worried at all. In fact, Chu Xiu now belonged to the tripartite cultivation of Taoism, Buddhism, and demonic. The Xiantian skill was a Taoist secret manual. It did not have any attribute bonuses, but it was the most important, so there was no need to worry about conflicts with any techniques. Although Chu Xiu did not directly cultivate the Buddhist techniques because of the glazed golden threads goo, his body also contained the power of Buddhism. As for the demonic techniques, Chu Xiu had many. Whether it was the Avicii Three Blades or the Heaven and Earth Merciless Yin and Yang Great Sorrow, they were all extremely powerful demonic techniques. Perhaps it was because Chu Xiu had turned these three powers into his own foundation from the beginning, and even the glazed golden threads goo was an existence that was connected to Chu Xiu's bloodline, so the conflict of powers did not happen to Chu Xiu. Naturally, Chu Xiu did not have to worry about the situation of qi deviation in the later stages. Chu Xiu said to Old Man Huang faintly, "I know this. You just need to repair the jade slip. You don't have to worry about the rest." After saying that, Chu Xiu directly left, leaving Old Man Huang behind, shaking his head. If it were not for Chu Xiu's generosity, he really would not be willing to cooperate with a famous killer like Chu Xiu. It was too worrying, and he had to be careful with his words, afraid of angering the other party. After nothing happened on Old Man Huang's side, Chu Xiu first returned to the Blue Dragon Society. However, just as he returned to the underground palace, Ghost Hand King stopped him. "Don't accept any missions for the next few days. Lord Branch Leader wants to gather the entire Heavenly Sin Branch to carry out a mission." Chu Xiu frowned. Another group mission? To be honest, Chu Xiu did not want to carry out this kind of group mission again after completing it once. The rewards were too low. However, now that he was under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to lower his head. With the personality of the Heavenly Sin Branch Master, if Chu Xiu dared to disobey his orders, the consequences could be imagined. After all, Ghost Hand King and Fire Slave had once said that if one wanted to do well in the Heavenly Sin Branch, it was enough to grasp one rule, and that was to absolutely obey the branch leader's orders. The Ghostly Hand King said, "This can be considered a group mission, but it's not a group mission issued by someone outside. Instead, the branch master wants to do something, and he needs all the assassins in the Sin Branch to cooperate. But don't worry, Lord Branch Lord is quite generous. This mission will be given to everyone according to the reward of a level 6 mission." Chu Xiu shrugged. Even if it was a level 6 mission, there would not be much. At most, it was a psychological comfort so that everyone would not work for nothing. However, Heavenly Sin Branch Leader's series of actions made Chu Xiu feel that he was a bit too impatient. Regarding information about Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, Chu Xiu had heard a little about it in the original story, but it was not very detailed. This Heavenly Sin Branch Leader might not be the strongest branch leader in the history of the Blue Dragon Society, but he had the strongest presence and was the most troublesome branch leader. Usually, the leaders of the Azure Dragon Society treated the branch of the Azure Dragon Society as a pure organization of assassins. However, the leader of the Heavenly Sin Society often led the members of the Heavenly Sin Society to stir up trouble in the Jianghu of the east of Yen Kingdom, causing quite a stir in the Jianghu. Chu Xiu had this feeling when he went on a group mission. This time, Chu Xiu was sure that Heavenly Sin Branch Leader was gradually following the original story. However, this did not matter to Chu Xiu. His strength was there, and if there were benefits in following Heavenly Sin Branch Leader, he would naturally listen to his orders. However, if it was the other way around, it was hard to say what he would do. As Chu Xiu was talking to Ghost Hand King, Tang Yu wandered out of nowhere. He was playing with an exquisite golden dragon tail soul-hunting dart and asked Ghost Hand King, "Ghost Hand King, do you know what Lord Branch Leader is going to do this time?" Ghost Hand King smiled bitterly and said, "Lord Branch Leader didn't tell me the specific situation. He only told me to stay here and wait for you guys to come back to inform you to stop the mission and prepare to make a move together." Tang Yu sighed and shook his head. "This is really troublesome. Actually, as a person, it is best to be more simple. The same goes for assassins. Our Blue Dragon Society is getting more and more complicated. Ghost Hand King frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Tanya did not answer Ghost Hand King's question, but asked Chu Xiu instead, "What do you think?" Chu Xiu just said indifferently, "In the underworld even the simplest things will become complicated. Just get used to it." Tanya laughed and said, "Yeah, just get used to it." Unfortunately, I have never been used to this kind of thing. After saying that, Tanya walked away while humming a tune that had a hint of Sichuan flavor. Ghost Hand King looked at Chu Xiu and said, "What does he mean?" Chu Xiu patted Ghost Hand King's shoulder and said, "Don't beat around the bush. Since you already understand, why are you still asking?" After saying that, Chu Xiu also turned around and left. Ghost Hand King remained silent. He had been an assassin in the Blue Dragon Society for more than 10 years. Ghost Hand King was not an idiot. In fact, he always knew, but he was just pretending. Blue Dragon Society was a simple assassin organization. They did not participate in the disputes of the underworld. They were only a double-edged demonic sword in everyone's hands. Whoever wanted to use this sword had to use blood to nourish it. While this sword helped you kill people, it also nourished the sword's power. In fact, this was the true purpose of the Blue Dragon Society. Only by being a pure sword could they slowly grow in the endless killing of the underworld. It could even be said that as long as there was hatred and killing in the underworld, there would be value in the existence of the Blue Dragon Society. However, under the leadership of the Heavenly Sin Division leader, the current Heavenly Sin Division wasn't as pure as it used to be. The Heavenly Sin Division leader didn't want the Heavenly Sin Division to follow the old path of the Azure Dragon Society. He wanted to make something simple complicated. As for whether this matter was good or bad, even the Ghost Hand King himself couldn't tell. However, as the trusted subordinate of the Heavenly Sin Branch leader, he helped the Heavenly Sin Branch manage the people in the branch. Naturally, he couldn't speak carelessly. Even if he understood some things, he had to pretend that he didn't. 2 days later, Yen Bugue returned from his mission. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader called Chu Xiu and the other martial artists with codenames into a meeting room and explained to them the mission that the Heavenly Sin Branch had to carry out this time. Looking at the people present, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader said in a deep voice, "This time's mission is not a mission from the outside world. It is also something that I am preparing to steal. But don't worry, as long as this mission is successfully completed, your rewards will not be lacking." Among the people present, besides Yen Bugue who still had a cold expression, the others all said in unison, "We will follow the instructions of the branch leader." The Heavenly Sin Branch leader nodded. He was not dissatisfied with Yen Bugue. That guy was just like that. The Heavenly Sin Branch leader said in a deep voice, "Half a month ago, a small aristocratic family in the Linzhong Commandery, the Fang family, bought an inconspicuous secret box from a secret box auction. Inside it was a treasure, the Blood Jade Exquisite. The Blood Jade Exquisite was the treasure of the ancient Blood River sect. Legend has it that it was refined from the essence of tens of thousands of martial artists. After refining it, it could strengthen one's qi and blood. It could also transform one's own gang qi into the incomparably powerful blood-refined God gang. After obtaining the treasure, although the Fang family tried their best to prevent the news from spreading, the news of the birth of the Blood Jade Exquisite was still found out by the two sects around the Fang family, the Green Dawn sect and the Golden Blade sect. These two sects wanted the Blood Jade Exquisite, so they began to threaten the Fang family together. The Fang family could not bear it and announced that they would hand over the Blood Jade Exquisite to the Northern Fluttering Snow City. They did not ask for the treasure, but only wanted to exchange for the protection of the Northern Fluttering Snow City. They wanted to move the Fang family to the north, and the morgue would be the witness. At this time, the guest chamberlain of the morgue, 9 Flower Green Peak Meng Yuanlong, had already arrived at the Fang family. There were also some experts from the surrounding sects who had gathered at the Fang family, wanting to see what the Blood Jade Exquisite looked like. Half a month later, the Northern Fluttering Snow City will officially send someone to receive the Blood Jade Exquisite. We have to take advantage of the chaos and snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite while they are preparing for the official handover. Chu Xiu and the others looked at each other. If they had snatched the Blood Jade Exquisite when it first appeared, it would have been fine. But now they had to snatch the Blood Jade Exquisite from the hands of the Northern Fluttering Snow City and the morgue. This was not an easy task. The guest chamberlain of the morgue, 9 Flower Green Peak Meng Yuanlong, was a great expert in the unity of heaven and man realm. A few years ago he was invited to the morgue by Nie Rinlong out of courtesy. Nie Rinlong even personally became sworn brothers with him, taking him as his sworn brother. In the Jianghu they called each other brothers. And it was still unknown who the northern fluttering snow city would send, but their strength should not be weak. At this time, Chu Xiu suddenly said doubtfully, "The Fang family should be the closest to the morgue. Why do they have to go to the northern fluttering snow city? Also, the morgue is not angry at all and is willing to be a witness. Is there a conspiracy?" When the others heard Chu Xiu's words, they also felt that something was wrong. They all looked at the Heavenly Sin Branch leader. Looking deeply at Chu Xiu, the Heavenly Sin Branch leader said indifferently, "Actually, the Fang family wanted to give this thing to the morgue, but the morgue didn't dare to accept it. The relic of the ancient demonic sect, the Blood River cult, is a good thing, but whether it is Nye Rinlong or Nye Donglu, it is not suitable for them to use. They care about their reputation. And would Nye Rinlong be willing to give it to the other people in the morgue? So, this information was sold to the northern fluttering snow city by the morgue, but how much of the transaction was involved is unknown to others. Chapter 123. Since ancient times, the righteous and evil sects had always been at odds. The righteous sects had the reputation of being righteous, but there were also many restrictions and rules. As for the demonic martial artists, they were free and unfettered, but because they broke the rules they were beaten up by everyone. At this point, even martial arts were divided into the righteous and demonic sections. Of course, this was pure nonsense to Chu Xiu. Those who cultivated righteous martial arts were not necessarily good people, and those who cultivated demonic arts were not necessarily bad people. In fact, martial arts were originally the path of fighting and killing. Whether it was the righteous or demonic sects, when cultivated to the end, it would be used to kill people. How could there be good or bad? Of course, this was only Chu Xiu's view. In the eyes of the majority of the people in the pugilistic world, the righteous and evil were at odds. So although the blood jade was a good item, the morgue village didn't dare to take it. Otherwise, if Nye Rinlong or his son used it, it would inevitably cause the people in the pugilistic world to criticize their morgue village. Although the blood jade was precious, it wasn't worth it to ruin the reputation that the morgue village had built up for decades. As for the northernmost Snowdrift city, they didn't have this concern. The northernmost Snowdrift city was neither righteous nor demonic, but their way of doing things was rough and overbearing, and they were often criticized by the people in the pugilistic world. To the northernmost Snowdrift city, as long as it was a good item, they dared to take it. They didn't care about righteous or evil. At this time, Ghost Hand King stood up and cupped his hands. "Lord Branch Leader, since the northernmost Snowdrift city hasn't arrived yet, why don't we rob it now? When the northernmost Snowdrift city's people arrive, won't we have to face the experts of both sides at the same time?" Heavenly Sin Branch Leader said in a deep voice, "I have already sent someone to infiltrate the Fang family and bribed a direct descendant of the Fang family. Right now, Meng Yuanlong is guarding the Blood Jade, and there are more than 10 factions in the Linzhong commandery that came to watch the show. If we attack by force, the success rate is less than 50%. Only at the time of the handover would the Blood Jade necklace be returned to the Fang clan. The Fang clan would personally hand it over to the people from the Drifts Now city in front of everyone. That would also be the only opportunity for us to act. But even so, our chances of seizing it by force are still very slim. So, I've already come up with a plan. We're going to use a deceptive method to steal the Blood Jade crystal." Sky Crime Branch Leader looked at everyone present and said in a deep voice, "I need one of you to disguise yourself and pretend to be a member of the pugilistic world to sneak into the Fang clan. Afterwards, I brought all of the assassins of the Blue Dragon Society to lie in ambush outside the Fang residence before the handover ceremony. When the Blood Jade Jewel returned to the Fang residence, we attacked the Fang residence and attracted everyone's attention. When the time comes, the Fang family that I bribed will use the fake Blood Jade Linglong that I prepared in advance to replace it with the fake one, and take advantage of the chaos to give you the real one. In the midst of the chaos, no one will think of checking whether the Blood Jade crystal is real or fake. When one of you runs far away with the real Blood Jade crystal, I'll bring my men and leave. Then this mission will be considered a success." Hearing Sky Crime Branch Leader say this, everyone present didn't say anything else. Clearly, for the sake of seizing the Blood Jade crystal, Sky Crime Branch Leader had already made a very detailed plan. Even the plan had been laid out. In that case, they only needed to listen to Sky Crime Branch Leader's orders. However, at this time, Chu Xiu faintly felt that there was something wrong with Sky Crime Branch Leader's plan. But as for what the problem was, he couldn't figure it out. At this time, Sky Crime Branch leader looked at everyone and said, "Right now there's only one problem. Which one of you will be responsible for sneaking into the Fang clan and being the key person to steal the fake blood jade crystal? This person must be bold and meticulous, and his methods must be nimble and adaptable. Otherwise, if something unexpected happens, it will be a disaster." Although the Heavenly Sin Branch leader was looking at the crowd, his gaze was mainly on Chu Xiu and Tang Ye. Among everyone present, the strongest was still Yan Bugue. However, this kind of mission wasn't something that could be completed with strength alone. With Yan Bugue's personality, he was definitely not suitable to complete this kind of mission. Everyone was sure that even if this guy changed his appearance, he would still look the same. He would probably be discovered before he could even sneak into the Fang clan. Apart from Yan Bugue, the strongest were Tang Ye and Chu Xiu. Of these two, one was at the physical invulnerability stage, and his success rate in completing the mission was also extremely high. Although Chu Xiu was at the internal invulnerability stage, his ability to complete the mission was even more outstanding. His thoughts were meticulous and his ability to plan was strong. Moreover, his strength was comparable to some of the weaker physical invulnerability stage martial artists. Sky Crime Branch leader pondered for a while, then said, "Chu Xiu, I'll leave this mission to you. Tang Ye's personality is too obvious, and I'm afraid that he will give himself away when he sneaks into the Fang clan. Don't worry, the Blue Dragon Society's reward and punishment system has always been very fair. Your mission is the most difficult one, so you deserve the most rewards." Chu Xiu furrowed his brows. Actually, he wasn't willing to accept this kind of mission that would bring him into the limelight. It was safer to follow behind everyone, and he would be able to obtain more benefits. But now that Sky Crime Branch leader had asked him to do it, he couldn't possibly give Chu Xiu a chance to refuse. Therefore, Chu Xiu could only stand up and cup his hands in greeting. "I'll follow Sky Crime Branch leader's orders." Sky Crime Branch leader nodded in satisfaction and said, "Since it's like this, let's start preparing. In order to make it seem more real, don't tell the other assassins about this matter. Let them think that our Sky Crime Branch is really going to attack the Fang clan head-on. Only then will it seem real." Everyone felt a chill in their hearts when they heard this. The ordinary assassins of the Blue Dragon Society were probably going to become cannon fodder this time. If they knew the inside story and knew that they were only going to create a diversion, then they definitely wouldn't risk their lives. Instead, they would just sit back and do nothing, preserving their strength. A few people could do this, but over 100 assassins from the Blue Dragon Society would do the same. Even an idiot would feel that something was wrong. Therefore, Sky Crime Branch leader specially called them to the meeting hall to talk about this matter. He was afraid that the other assassins would find out about this. However, everyone present knew Sky Crime Branch leader's personality. At this moment, no one was willing to offend him. They immediately nodded in agreement and went to prepare for their own matters. Because Chu Xiu wanted to sneak into the Fang clan, he had to disguise himself first. In the Blue Dragon Society, the Ghostly Hand King was the best at disguising himself. Although the Ghostly Hand King's martial arts weren't too outstanding, he knew a lot of miscellaneous things. When carrying out a mission, he could use all of his random tricks. Sometimes, he could even kill people faster than Chu Xiu and the others. Although the Ghostly Hand King couldn't be said to have achieved great success in disguising himself, he could be said to be proficient in it. It wasn't a problem for him to temporarily disguise Chu Xiu as someone else. The Ghostly Hand King directly pulled Chu Xiu into his room and put a human skin mask on Chu Xiu. Then he took out a large number of bottles and jars and began to smear them on Chu Xiu's face. He also took out a scraper and a fine brush and began to refine it. After a quarter of an hour, Chu Xiu looked like a completely different person. Right now, Chu Xiu's appearance was basically that of a man in his 30s. He had a sallow complexion and he didn't look like he had anything to show. It wasn't just his face. Even Chu Xiu's hands and all of his exposed skin had been painted a sallow color by the Ghostly Hand King. In any case, it was basically impossible to see from the outside. Chu Xiu clicked his tongue in praise. "Ghostly Hand King, your skills are superb. You really live up to your name of Ghostly Hand." The Ghostly Hand King chuckled. "It's nothing. Right now, the place with the most amazing disguising techniques should be the wind-sweeping pavilion. Those anemophilia have thousands of faces. They often infiltrate large clans and sects to gather information. They do it unknowingly. However, this low-level disguising technique of mine has quite a big flaw. These things on your face can't come in contact with water. Otherwise they will dissolve. Also, your aura needs to be concealed. As he said that, the ghostly hand king took out a jade talisman and handed it to Chu Xiu. This is a jade talisman that can conceal your aura. As long as you actively suppress your aura and wear this jade talisman, even a great expert at the unity of the world realm won't be able to see your true strength. Of course you can't make a move. As long as you use a trace of qi, the formation on the jade talisman will lose its effect. You will also be completely exposed. Chu Xiu glanced at his own attire. As long as there were no accidents, there didn't seem to be any big problems. Of course, even if there were any accidents, Chu Xiu would definitely choose to immediately escape without the slightest bit of hesitation. He wasn't so loyal to the Blue Dragon Society that he would throw his life away. Especially since this mission wasn't a mission from the Blue Dragon Society, but a mission from the Heavenly Sin Branch leader himself. During this period of time, Chu Xiu had been adapting to the actions of his identity and the way he spoke. He was trying his best to not be seen through. Half a month later, the people from the extreme north's fluttering snow city arrived at the Fong family. The Blue Dragon Society was also completely mobilized. They hid around the Fong family and struck at the crucial moment. At this time, there were already many martial artists in front of and inside the Fong family. Apart from the people from the morgue and the extreme north's fluttering snow city, most of them were martial artists from the forest commandery. To them this kind of bustle was really rare. Actually, most of the martial artists from the forest commandery would still praise the Fong family for their cleverness in doing this. Although the probability of obtaining a treasure from a low-grade secret box was very low, to the point that it was infuriating, the pugilistic world was so big that such things had always happened, almost without a break. Most of the small clans couldn't help but completely occupy the treasure after obtaining it, not wanting to share it with anyone else. In the end, only a very small portion of people used this treasure to greatly improve their clan's strength. Most of the clans, however, were exterminated for their treasures. The Fong family was quite decisive. As soon as they saw that their own treasure had aroused the greed of others, they immediately found a solid backer to hug in exchange for protection and support. Chapter 124. The Fong clan was just a small clan in the Linzhong commandery, but at this moment, it was very crowded. Most of the people were actually here to join in the fun. They wanted to see what this so-called ancient demonic treasure, the blood jade crystal, looked like. Among them were people from the Qingqin sect and the Jindao sect. At this moment, the people from these two sects were filled with regret. If they had known this would happen, they would have given up on the idea of fighting for it and directly attacked the Fong clan. In the end, they could only watch as the treasure fell into the hands of the fluttering snow city of the far north. They didn't even dare to say a word. The two sects were considered to be powerful in the Linzhong commandery, but compared to the fluttering snow city of the far north, they were like ants. At this moment, Chu Xiu disguised himself as an ordinary martial artist and blended in with the crowd. He didn't stand out at all. As he strolled back and forth, he was also investigating the situation and movements of the entire Fong clan. After about 2 hours, a group of people walked in from outside. The leader was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He wore a snow-white tiger skin robe and had a cold expression. There was a hideous knife scar on his face that extended from his forehead to the left side of his face. One look and anyone could tell that he was not someone to be trifled with. Someone beside him said, "It's the 13th master of the fluttering snow city, Raging Flame Mad Blade, Bai Qinhu." This 13th master of the Bai clan was born in a branch family, but he followed the elders of the Bai clan to fight for the fluttering snow city of the far north since he was young. Now he has reached the peak of the Qi-controlling realm and is one with the world. In the fluttering snow city of the far north, his status is not inferior to the martial artists of the direct line of descent. It seems that the fluttering snow city of the far north also values the blood jade crystal very much. They actually sent such an expert to personally welcome it. At this moment, the patriarch of the Fong clan also personally came out to welcome Bai Qinhu. There was a joyful smile on his face as he bowed to Bai Qinhu and said, "To trouble the 13th master to come personally, our Fong clan is really honored by your presence." Bai Qinhu squeezed out a stiff smile and said, "Since the Fong clan has decided to join my Drifts Now City, then my Drifts Now City will naturally protect the Fong clan for the rest of their lives. Since the Fong family trusts my Drifts Now City, then my Drifts Now City will not go back on its word. From now on, the Fong family will be under the protection of my Drifts Now City. If anyone dares to target the Fong family, then that is equivalent to provoking my Drifts Now City." After saying this, Bai Qinhu's gaze swept across the crowd. His eyes seemed to have a chilling glint that made everyone's hearts tremble. This was especially so for those from the Qingqin sect and Jindao sect. They were afraid that with the support of the Drifts Now city of the extreme north, they would suffer the revenge of the Fang clan. Seeing Bai Qinhu's actions, Chu Xiu secretly raised his eyebrows. This time, the Drifts Now city of the extreme north actually sent a great expert who was one with the world. It seemed that the Tianzue branch leader would have some trouble. But if it was troublesome, then so be it. In any case, the mission over there was not something he wanted to do. Since the Tianzue branch leader had the confidence to act, then he should be able to predict that he would have to deal with 2 or more experts who were one with the world at the same time. And the words that Bai Qinhu said actually had a very deep meaning. His words were not only for the Bai clan to hear, but also for the people of the pugilistic world to hear. If one discovered a secret treasure and wanted to hide it, then there would be a calamity that would lead to the destruction of the entire clan. And if one offered it to the Drifts Now city of the extreme north, then they would be like the Fang clan, receiving the protection and status they deserved. There was no need to say which side was more suitable. After the people from the Drifts Now city of the extreme north were welcomed into the Fang clan, Chu Xiu immediately stealthily retreated into the backyard of the Fang clan. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the people of the Fang clan or the people of the pugilistic world, all of their attention was on the front yard. The people of the Fang clan would officially hand over the blood jade to the people from the Drifts Now city. Although this was just a ceremony, it was a ceremony that was held in front of everyone, and there was even the Morgue village as a witness. If in the future the Drifts Now city of the extreme north went back on their word and didn't protect the Fang clan, that would be a violation of the rules. Not only would the Drifts Now city of the extreme north lose face, even the Morgue village would have to speak out for the Fang clan, seeking justice for the Fang clan. This was also the role of a witness, just like how Zen Master Hengshan acted as a witness during the Grand Assembly of Yao Nanxian's Golden Basin washing hands. In the backyard, Chu Xiu was hiding under a rock garden. At this moment, the majority of the people of the Fang clan were in the front yard. Basically, no one would come to the backyard. And even if someone came, they wouldn't be able to discover Chu Xiu. At this time, a Fang clan disciple in his 20s came to the backyard sneakily with a box in his hand, looking around for something. Chu Xiu picked up the long sword in his hand and rhythmically knocked on the rock garden a few times. The young man's eyes suddenly lit up and immediately ran to Chu Xiu's side, stuffed the box into Chu Xiu's hands and cautiously said, "I've brought the thing for you, quickly leave directly from the backyard, the front yard is already full of martial artists, I can't leave for too long, otherwise it will arouse suspicion." After saying that, the young martial artist was about to leave. But at this time, when Chu Xiu took the box, he felt that something was slightly wrong. He directly opened the box. Inside the box was an exquisite blood jade that was the size of a fist and had an irregular shape. It contained countless intricate blood lines, appearing incomparably mystical and magnificent. It was the shape of the legendary blood jade. Seeing that Chu Xiu opened the box, the young man suddenly became a little flustered. He hurriedly said, "What are you still looking at here? Quickly take the thing and leave. Otherwise, if we're discovered, both of us will be out of luck." Looking at the blood jade, Chu Xiu suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the martial artist's neck, coldly saying, "This isn't a blood jade at all." The Fang clan martial artist struggled. "What are you doing? If this isn't a blood jade, what else can it be? Let me go, could it be that you want to cheat on me?" Looking at the Fang clan martial artist, Chu Xiu's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. This Fang clan martial artist was lying, and even that Heaven Crime Branch leader's plan was problematic. In the original plot, Chu Xiu had never seen a blood jade, nor had he seen one in this life, only heard of it. But now the thing in the box looked exactly like a blood jade, so why did Chu Xiu think that it wasn't a blood jade? The reason was very simple. It was because the baleful blood energy he condensed was utterly unable to resonate with the energy within the blood jade crystal in the slightest. Chu Xiu's secret technique, piercing the sun and moon, was a martial art of the Blood River sect. It could be said that it came from the same source as this blood jade. In the end, Chu Xiu had not sensed any power that belonged to the Blood River sect from the blood jade exquisite. After that, he had opened the box and tested it with the blood qi, but the blood jade exquisite did not resonate with him at all. A treasure refined by a sect using their own secret technique could not even trigger the sect's own martial art to resonate. What was this if not a joke? Also, after discovering that there was a problem with the blood jade, Chu Xiu realized that there was something wrong with the Heaven Crime Branch leader's plan. When the Heaven Crime Branch leader told him this plan, Chu Xiu felt that something was wrong, but he could not tell what exactly was wrong. Only now did Chu Xiu know what was wrong. This plan was too smooth. There was no problem with the arrangement of the plan. The problem was that the Heaven Crime Branch leader only needed to bribe a direct descendant of the Fang family to steal the real blood jade. In the process, the blood jade would fall back into the hands of the Fang family, but it would not be controlled by just one person from the Fang family. There would definitely be many people, including the disciples of the Morgue. After all, Meng Yuanlong had not come alone. He had brought many disciples with him. Putting Chu Xiu in the shoes of this Fang family disciple, with Chu Xiu's strength and the secret technique he knew, the chances of him successfully swapping the blood jade was less than 10%. How could this Fang family disciple so easily swap the blood jade? Even if he was the son of the Fang family's head, it would still be impossible. Furthermore, this Fang family disciple in front of him was only at the blood condensation realm, and he didn't seem to be very scheming. On the contrary, he seemed to be a bit impatient. If division leader Tianxin wanted to rely on him to steal the blood jade exquisite, then that would be a joke. Looking at the Fang family disciple, a cold light appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes. The heaven-extinguishing earth-extinguishing soul-shifting technique was used. In an instant, Chu Xiu's eyes seemed to become a bottomless abyss. The Fang family disciple's gaze involuntarily sank deeper and deeper into that bottomless abyss, completely losing himself. With Chu Xiu's current cultivation base, using the heaven-extinguishing earth-extinguishing soul-shifting technique to deal with a soul condensation cultivator was very simple. "Is the blood jade real?" asked Chu Xiu in a low voice. The Fang family disciple said in a sluggish voice, "It's fake. The real blood jade is being guarded by 2 elders of the Fang family as well as several disciples of the Morgue. Although I'm a direct descendant, I don't have the qualifications to approach it." Chu Xiu's expression turned cold and he continued to ask, "Then what's the deal with this thing you gave me?" "It was given to me by that lord. He told me to come to the rear courtyard at this time and give it to someone. He also told me to treat the box as the real blood jade. I had to personally see him take it and leave the Fang family. I only had a quarter hour before he left the Fang family's territory." "Who is that lord?" "I don't know, but he gave me many cultivation techniques and cultivation resources. Afterwards I can take these things and leave the Fang family, living a life of riches and freedom." "Did he give you any other orders?" "No, that's all." Chu Xiu's expression was dark as he strangled the Fang family disciple to death. At this time he was certain that he had been played. To be more accurate, he had been used as a pawn by the Heaven Crime Branch leader. Or perhaps it was better to say that he had been abandoned. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.